night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
This is Houston Control. Checking for backup. Backup initiated. Locking out all ports. Clear. And we are good to go. This is Houston Control. Checking for backup. Backup initiated. Locking out all ports. Clear. And we are good to go.
Roger, Houston. We've got it from here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind. I'm Sovereign Soul. You're not. Coming to you high above your imagination, 250 miles in the International Fake Station. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I got Plowboy 6656, Anonymous, Francois Lagrange, B. Macamus, CJ Mobley. Who else we got in here? Username redacted, Mike Finnan, and Sob's Place. Hey, I know that guy. So how y'all doing tonight? It's been an interesting week. Been an interesting weekend. Many things happening in quick succession. Almost too much to keep up with anymore. I guess we had another bang incident in Texas today in a mall. Still waiting for some details to come out about that. I haven't really delved into that one a whole lot. I kind of pulled ourselves out of this matrix for the weekend and checked into some pretty good saw some pretty good movies. Saw an interesting one today that had some cool symbology in it. What was it called? It was called it had that guy that played the Black Falcon in the superhero movies there in it, and Synchronic is what it was called. And they had this some kind of designer drug that people would take it, and it would literally, in younger people whose pineal glands were not as calcified as older people, was taking them off to like a completely different time briefly. And some of them were coming back with, you know, some horrific shit had been done to them in that short visit to that past period in time. And it was kind of interesting. The symbology on it was really neat. The little pills had the S for the name of it, Synchronic, but it was connected. The two open ends were connected with a line, making it into an 8. And I thought it was interesting that they used an 8 once again for symbolizing space and time. So here we got Austin Murphy with us tonight here too. Good. I'm gonna wait a couple of people get called in. Had some people in my chat, the usual suspects, not in my chat, but in comments, worried to death about the flight routes from Santiago to Sydney. And they said, well, there's a nonstop route. Yes. Okay. We found the nonstop route, and it's an expensive one. It'll run you anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a ticket. but the plane they're using is a Boeing 787. The other routes do come up into North America, but this one does, instead of a couple stops, it goes nonstop in a straight line, right? Keeping the coast of the United States and South America, of course, to its starboard side. It has a range of well over 8,000 miles, this airplane too. So it's interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show something too. They, if any of you know who Max Egan is, Max Egan took the flight, and while he was on it, had a compass, and this actually explains it so you can see the route. And I'm going to play this real quick for y'all. And let me pull this up here, get it so it's the full screen, and let it play.
You can see the compass is clearly showing southwest or west-southwest, and the on-screen display is showing it is going northwest. Something is clearly weird about that particular flight, which seems to show northwest as the intended path of the flight, yet Max clearly showed flight was showing southwest on his compass, and he claims that it showed southwest the entire time he was awake. Let me show you a flat Earth map so you can get an idea of why that's a big deal. Now, let me look at the flight as it would take place here on the Gleason's map. And if you look at the lines that have the green on them, those are lines where the plane would be flying northwest. The line with the purple would be flying about west. And then all the yellow lines would be flying southwest. So the interesting thing there is when Max said that the second half of his trip, the entire time he was awake, his compass was showing southwest. That would make sense with all the yellow lines, as you see. Remember, north is relative to where you're at, with south behind you. So that's what those little pink lines show us. And as you can see, all the yellow lines are actually a southwest flight direction, where on a globe, he should have been going northwest.
And Buenos Aires, Sydney is the longest flight ever made for any airliner. The inbound flight, due to the winds, depends, arrives up to 16 hours and 45 minutes. Flight time, not block. Just take off until.
Now, of course, that was, with actually, and I think this was with the 787. This is a big fucking plane too, boy. I didn't even know they made these. There's Malcolm Sheen. Good to see you, good Malcolm. But I thought that was interesting because he did take a compass on board. And a lot of times, I don't know if any of you have flown recently, you can pull down, there's a little display on the back of the seats a lot of times, and you can pull it up and it shows you where the aircraft is supposed to be relative to the map. And as they were being told that they were going northwest, you could see that the compass was actually pointing a different area, a different direction. And that being because it is a direct route. It makes absolutely no sense to go around in a curved pattern. That would be fucking ridiculous. But anyway, I hope that addresses that. I don't know why, without being able to prove or show any fucking curvature, why they think that some plane route was going to prove that they live on a fucking spinning ball wobbling through a void. That's just ridiculous. Anyway, we're over here on both YouTube tonight and on Rumble. So make sure you are subscribed to the Rumble, because if shit gets a little bit too much, we just cut off of YouTube so we don't anger the snowflakes in the basement of Google and make them think that we're somehow disrupting their little plan for communism and destruction of the family across the United States. And we're going to just tell them fuck out. I'm noticing that there's a lot of channels are doing this. So much so, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the commercials, more and more the commercials that they stick in more frequently are not skippable. You have to go all the way through them. They have a real nice long one that's paid for by Medicare or some shit too. So they get that free money out of that one too. But there again, just like the rest of these organizations, at the expense of billions of dollars in revenue, the agenda is way more important, and that should tell people a lot. And it is about your perspective. They don't count on you noticing this. They don't count on you knowing this. Okay. They do this little tiny, imperceptible movements of pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope, pushing the envelope until it's like within striking distance. And here within the last little while, we've seen that they've just gone into a full-on sprint. You know, with devil may care attitude, they just go forth. They're not even trying to hide the shit. We've got after school Baphomet Club. Here's another thing that I'm wondering too. They really want to attack the kids. You know, it's really interesting why there's so many of these weirdos want to go and have story time with your kids. How come none of them are volunteering to go read and spend time with the folks at the old folks home? You know, wonder why. You know, those are people that like to hear stories and shit too. Would it be because they probably know they get a goddamn walker up their ass for that crazy shit? Of course they would. Of course they would. Yes, Max Egan is a legend. I have not. It's hard chasing him around to find out, you know, get any information from him. They ran him out of Australia. From last I understood. I don't know what has happened to Max Egan. I don't know. Let's see if we can find something on him real quick here. Probably not on YouTube. Now let's see. A year ago. Let's see. Nah, shit. All he's got on this one is playlists, and doesn't have any videos. So let's see on this other one. Yeah, the last video there was a year ago. Yeah, he's not put anything on YouTube, probably not allowed to. And I don't know, he was staying at somebody else's place in somewhere in South America or something. I don't know. It's a shame though, but that's what happens with anyone that is out there speaking any kind of truth. You know what I mean? So if anybody has any questions about some of this stuff, I'm going to kind of discuss perspective. One of the fundamental basic things that people always, you know, you say, hey, you know, what's your biggest proof to you of the earth being a globe? Well, of course, nobody would ever think that ever on their own. No one would ever think that. You could live your whole life. And wonder about where it is you may live. And you will never come to the conclusion. You would never come to the conclusion that, hey, I must be on a spinning ball that's hurtling through the cosmos. Never once would that ever become even a tangible idea in your mind. In fact, if you didn't tell anybody that they lived on a globe, if you didn't tell anybody until they were about 13 years old and then laid that crap on them, they would laugh at you. They would completely laugh at you. So this is why they tell you when you're around 5 years old that this is a fact. We're trusting. We learn all of our things from adults. Hello, FE Nation. Good to see you. And Annette, good to see you as well. So this is the same time period that they're telling everybody, oh, yeah, there's this guy that comes down from the North Pole and flies around to everybody's house, comes down the chimney. And if one of your teeth comes out, you put it under a pillow and there's a magic little elf that comes in and gives you money for it. And, you know, all these other preposterous things that we know are for children. Well, that's when they tell you that crap. Because if you tried to lay that shit on logical thinking adults, they would never buy it. And I said, get the fuck out of here with that craziness. What the hell are you talking about? So a lot of times what people, their biggest thing is, the sun. We see the sun going down. Yes. Okay. You do. It appears to go down. It doesn't go down. It only goes out of your visual range. And as it moves from your visual range, it will appear lower and lower to the ground until it reaches what's called the vanishing point. And this is all due to angular perspective. You have a limit to your vision. And any of you that have ever taken art class know what the vanishing point is. Yes, Gwag, I'm sorry. I had to break that out there for you, bud. And it might kill you too. That little rabbit that goes around in the spring and gives everybody hidden eggs. That's mom and dad too. So, but as anyone knows, if you've looked down a street and you see a series of street lights, you're of course know that the street lights are all at the same level, but due to your perspective, they appear to be getting shorter and shorter as they get down and go further and further down the road. Just like with this building right here. Okay. Let me show you this. All right. So those columns are not actually getting closer together. They only appear to you to be getting closer together. Same thing with the railroad tracks. It all goes down into what's called a vanishing point. Right? So everything goes down into what's called a vanishing point. And you're seeing a example of that right there. So that's perspective. I've got another one here that really demonstrates it well. Here we go. Right here. So as you can see, those lights in that hallway, as you're down here to the floor, this appears up high, and each one consecutively appears to be going down. Almost looks like a line going down. But it's not. It's only your perspective. Okay? And so as the sun travels away from you, it appears to go down until you can no longer see it, because the sun is relatively close and relatively small compared to the earth. Now, I've been told that you can tell the size and distance of one of these objects merely by holding up a coin to eclipse that object, measuring the distance from your eye to the object in your hand, doing some fancy mathematics, and come up with a distance and size of the object. Now, the reason we know that that's complete and utter crap, I'm Illuminati confirmed. We have 33 watching, Illuminati confirmed. So the reason we know that that's nonsense is for the very reason or excuse that we're given as to why the sun and the moon appear to be the same size. We are told that the sun is 400 times larger than the moon and 400 times the distance as the moon. And therefore, it gives us the appearance that they are the same size. So, keeping that into account, if they both appear to be the same size, and I use the trick that I was told about holding up the quarter and being able to do that, then that would mean that I would get the same value for both objects, even though those objects are claimed to be completely different distances away and only appear to be the same size. You see, in order to find these distances to these objects and the sizes, you would have to have some known value. Without a known value, you cannot find anything. Because as we've stated and as we've shown, that a large object, for instance, something 836,000 miles in diameter and 93 million miles, can appear the same as the moon does at only 250,000 miles. Hello, John. Good
How's
to-
it going?
It's going very well. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. So we're still on the quarter thing.
Oh, I was. Well, we're kind of going over the idea of perspective.
Okay.
You know? And that is, and also perspective in the sense not just visual perspective, but even mental perspective. You know, how we perceive things that are even occurring in our world right now. You know, like we are perceiving the idea that two nations may be going to war, if not they're already at war with one another. Is that the reality of it, or is it a huge production, a live action role playing type situation? I mean, you know, it all based on the perception that you have of it. If you actually believe in international sovereignty and think that that's a real thing, then you'll see it as something as real. Whereas when my perception, I see it as nothing more than another one of the many stage plays, albeit real, people do get killed, that they play out within this realm. Hence the checkered floor.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like on, it just basically, you know, it depends. It all depends upon the consciousness of the observer and how depict certain phenomenon.
Right.
So, like, you know, there's a picture of like one guy says it's a 6, and then the other guy says it's a 9. Who's right?
Right. I think it was Jimi Hendrix had a song. You know, if a 6 turned, what if 6 was 9?
Yeah.
You know, if a 6 turned out to be a 9, and you know, there's validity in that, but you can carry it out to absurd, like when it comes to like some of these ideas of relativity, that the student of relativity is going to tell you that the train is stationary and the world is moving by. You see.
Right. Well, I guess that's why I can't really call myself a flat earther, but only a globe skeptic, because what they told us in the mainstream of if it's spinning around and how it measures things, how it measures how light is, the nature of light. There is no really conceivable objectivity, only falsity. And you look at like all of the pictures of space that are in the mainstream or that people use to compare, like, hey, we're just a little dot of this big universe. All of those pictures are from NASA.
Well, they're all paintings.
Every single one. Try to find one that's not from NASA.
Well, think about
There's
this.
a homework for you.
Where that you know that the picture of the galaxy is not real, especially the one that says, "Oh, you are here," right? Mm-hmm. How could that be real? Who took the picture?
NASA.
Yeah, but with what?
I mean, you could have drew that. I guess you could have. It could have been like a.
They just now, the thing they sent up in the 70s, just not long ago, just now went by Pluto, supposedly.
What?
So, you know, I mean, that's just our little bitty fucking solar system. They're talking about outside of the entire galaxy. See, and I mean, so you know that they could never have that photograph. I mean, they can't even give us a real photograph of the Earth. You know, and
well, they probably have like really high tech, like CGI technology that is hidden from us, and they just, like, you know, there's the face moving technology now, but I mean, they probably use that stuff to really deceive people into thinking that, you know, that they've actually been on the planets and they've actually been measuring, you know, if there's water in Mars or if there's.
Well, how would they know that? First off. I mean, how would they even know there's water on Mars or anything else? I mean, everything they've said about Mars has changed so many times over the years. You know, I mean, there's a 1 to 6% atmosphere on Mars. Misty May keeps, hang on one second. Misty May keeps trying to connect here. It keeps saying your devices are not connected. You may have to give your device permission or something. But I see you keep coming up backstage, but there's no camera or mic. But I wanted to go back to something you said there, John, is that, yes, this is it's, I can only prove that we are on a level plane. Okay. Whether or not there's a boundary to the entire thing or just a boundary to us, I don't know. Nobody does. All right. But what I can prove unequivocally 100% is that the globe is not true. In fact, it's scientifically impossible as described to us by NASA and by the scientists. It's absolutely scientifically impossible. It's built on assumptions. Okay. And a lot of that comes from their magic gravity, which they don't know what it is, but they purport to subscribe or prescribe this quality to other celestial objects that they can't see, touch, or interact with. So, it's all based on speculation, including the distances. There's assumption. So if any of your values in any given mathematical equation are assumptive, that makes the answer assumptive. Even if every other value in it is true, one assumptive value makes the outcome assumptive. It's that simple.
Yeah, like the guy was mentioning about trigonometry and how he can, sorry, I'm just going being a devil's advocate here. So past I asked him specifically, past the quarter to the moon, what's your standard deviation of error? And even he admitted there is a huge standard deviation of error. It's in statistics. Of that measurement.
It would have to be, and this is how big the error margin would have to be.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be at least within 92.75 million miles of deviation. All right. Because if you're looking at the sun and you look at the moon and they both appear to be the same size, right? And you use your little quarter trick, you can eclipse both of those objects exactly the same with the same quarter from the same distance from your eye. Yet we are told that they're two completely different distances and sizes. So that would mean that calculation would it would have to give the same answer for both objects.
So you're saying that the sun and the moon would be the same size?
They would, in that calculation, if that calculation actually worked, then that would show the sun and the moon to be at the same distance and the same size, which they're purported to not be. You see, because they both appear to be the same size. You're trying to judge something by its appearance. You have no known values. So once again, you're stuck. There is no way to really tell.
I've heard of measurements that if they say how big the sun is and how big the moon is, there's no way that the sun and the moon would be the same size when they eclipse during the day.
That's their excuse, is that the sun is 400 times bigger and 400 times farther. And that's why it makes it appear to be the same size. That's the science excuse. If you believe, I mean, that's a hell of a coincidence, but that's what science says. That's what the mainstream scientists tell us. I can't say that's what science tells us, because science would show that that's ridiculous. But through the scientific method, of course, it's just like I used in my example the other night. See, I have this right here is this big. And here right next to it, you can see that this white one is smaller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now watch what happens when I pull the big one back. Now they both appear to be the same size, don't they? So if you were to eclipse both of those equally with a quarter and get the distance to one, it should be the same to the other too, because you're going by the apparent size. So that's why it wouldn't be an accurate way to measure anything, because I just showed you those two objects appeared to be the same size, yet they were clearly at different distances from the camera.
Now, is there a mathematical equation? Like you mentioned something about trigonometry
Yeah,
where you
I
can
don't.
factor in the distance?
Well, you'd have to know the distance.
Right.
So if you knew the distance, then you could actually calculate the size. Yes. If you knew the size, you could calculate the distance. If you don't know the size or the distance and there's nothing relative to compare it to, then you just know that there's an object in the fucking sky. That's all you know.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
mean, they just come up with like convenient answers, and they is there actually any like equations that how NASA comes up with these numbers at all, and how they come up, or they just kind of make
and
these convenient
for the normal
excuses?
layman, you could look at them and they're going to mean butkus to you, right? For instance, here's the one that they try to get you with all the time, and that's with the calculation of gravity. Okay, well, they say, well, what, G is wrong? I said, well, no, you can call G whatever the fuck you want. That's what you're referring to the downward vector potential as. Doesn't mean that it's because of a molten core in the fucking earth at all. You see, they say that because I say that gravity doesn't exist, that means I think everything just floats around. No, that's not the case at all. I agree there's a downward vector. Things can be predicted as far as how they fall in a given medium. Absolutely. What is the cause of the downward vector? Now we're talking about a difference of opinion. Okay. I say it's a function of electrostatics. They say it's because there's a molten core of iron whirling around in the middle of the earth or some shit. Now, what can I prove to substantiate my claim? Well, the fact that you are on a neutral or negative surface, and as you go higher in elevation, the positive potential of voltage goes up. 100 volts per meter in elevation. So we're clearly between two different charges of a neutral or negative charge, the Earth, and the positive of, I don't care, call it the ionosphere, whatever the fuck it is, but it's definitely positively charged. Okay. MIT just made a drone recently that flies with no moving parts merely by changing the electrostatic charge in the object itself and increasing or decreasing it in various areas to steer it around. It's kind of like you would increase on a rotary wing helicopter, one of those 4 quadcopters. You increase on one side and it goes that way, increase on the other side, it goes the other way. Doing the same thing, only with electrostatics. There's workable shit to go by. Now, as far as knowing what could possibly be in the center of the earth, well, the deepest hole ever dug was 7.9 miles. It's called the deep borehole in Russia. I'm trying to find that ridiculous little cartoon they always show us. Here it is. Let me get this out of here. Stop screen. There we go. And they got down, they used ground penetrating radar and were wrong every step of the way. This is what they always show you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how in the world would they even know that? If you've only ever dug 7.9 miles, which is nothing. It's like halfway through the skin of an apple. And then deciding you know what's in the very center up. Especially when you were wrong every step of the way going through halfway the skin of the apple. See, none of this can be proven. This is all speculation and theory. But the trick that they do is they treat these speculations and theories as though they are fact. It's like the guy the other night was going to argue with me about the speed of light. And I'm like, no, different measurements within a vicinity of the same, but different values were calculated by different physicists. They came to a consensus, and that's what they use today. However, given the fact that different measurements have been taken, this means that the speed of light isn't a constant, and therefore and is being treated as a constant. It's a variable. And so what does that do when you're dealing with astronomical numbers? Well, it throws your ship way off, is what it does. You know, it's just like in long range shooting. If I'm shooting 500 yards, all I have to move my sights is a thousandth of an inch is going to make a huge difference downrange. Well, it's the same thing when you're dealing with huge calculations like that. If you're treating a variable as a constant, then your outcome there again is speculative. It's the same with all of that. Anytime you use an assumptive value in a calculation, your answer is going to be an assumption or a speculation because you weren't using true values. They try to flim-flam you.
I wonder if they always come up with different calculations, and maybe this is how they come up with like different maps of the world. Like you see one map that says it's like North America is like almost like the size of Greenland, and you see another map that's like America is a teeny tiny half size of.
Unfortunately, a lot of times that's due to political reasons.
You
know, those are due to political reasons, and you'll find that the country of origin that the map comes from, that the land that's depicted is greatly exaggerated. I can go out I would say the Gleason's map, AE map, is one of the closest representations of a true what we have. I would have to also say though that I don't think there are any true accurate maps, because maps and cartographers and control systems have gone together hand in hand since time immemorial. Because once an area is established and mapped, then the control starts, right? And part of that control may or may not involve the hiding of other lands, the restricting of various parts of the known earth, keeping people from being able to explore these things on their own, that kind of thing. So yeah, I do. I think they're hiding land. I do. Can I prove that? No. But wouldn't it stand to reason?
Yeah.
I mean, does anything float? I mean, and that was another thing. See, this is that guy, Nick, he's supposed to have a scientific mind, right? And so he jumped right off the shit. He got really bent something there for a minute about the Mandela effect. Oh, you people think these things are changing, right? Well, let's see, did mine change? Well, I don't know. Yeah, it probably did. But the problem that how would he ever see it? He says, well, I've never read it. Well, then how would you know if any of it fucking changed, Nick? What are you doing? How in the fuck, if you've never read it, you've never looked at it, you're not familiar with it, how would any of the changes that have taken place be significant? Other than I can show you that there's words that are wrong for the vernacular that was used at the time. I can definitely show you that. They didn't speak of damsels and dukes. They sure as hell didn't have bottles of milk in Old Testament time. You know, so that's some pretty screwy shit. But see, that's the thing. You know, a scientific mind is going to say, well, okay, well, let's take a look at this. What's the statistical probability of that much percentage of people just misremembering the same fucking thing? Like, what's the statistical probability of 70% of the people actually remembering the Fruit of the Loom logo having the fucking cornucopia? I mean, everybody just misremembers that? That's insane. And then the residue we have, the thinker statue, right? The thinker was always like this with his fist on his forehead, right? Now the thing has changed like this, but here's what's crazy. People go to see that statue, famous statue by Rodin. and they pose to get their picture taken, posing like the thinker in front of the thinker, right? So now we got a bunch of people posing like this in their photographs, but the statue in the photograph has changed to this now. So why would a whole bunch of people all go like this when it's like this, clearly right next to them? Here, honey, pose like the statue. Oh, okay. See, it's that kind of shit. Berenstein Bears, right? How does that many people misremember that? Especially I got anchor memories. I wrote a fucking story. It was great. It was a short story. And the Berenstein Bears were hiding out from Nazi wolves in the Three Bears' house. And Goldilocks snitched them out because she was a Lebensborn Aryan girl. And they snitched them out and shit. And they had to go on the run. And I mean, I thought it was kind of a creative story for a sixth grader. You know, but I got in trouble for it. So, I mean, why would I have ever made that story if I didn't think, oh, Steen, a Jewish name. Okay. Right. It's just shit like that. So everybody's just fucking misremembering. And it's people like him, man. The more indoctrinated people are, the worse off they are. And as you show these things and you start to reveal them, they don't just go, oh, huh, or no, I don't see it. They get mad. They get angry. You know?
Well, a mark of an intelligent mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it.
There you go. There you go.
And these people that are supposedly experts and teachers and teaching children that it's normal to castrate yourself and in college, and you know, these supposedly they have nothing to back up anything that they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, and they're unable to grasp the idea that someone seeking knowledge does not need the approval of the fucking wizard to have it. In other words, I don't have to go pay some fucking castle institution a shitload of money to get them to teach me a curriculum where that information is already readily available at the touch of my fingers anytime I want it. Boom. I can study it and I can look at other information that's not offered in the curriculum, you see? And so therefore it blows that guy's mind that because I brag at the fact that I am a high school dropout because I've never needed that bullshit to succeed in life at all. It's a ruse. It's a lie. I learned just about everything I know. I learned outside of school. I really did. I learned things despite school, not because of school. These people think that learning comes from an institution, right? And so it really chaps his ass that I'm sitting here smoking weed, being a high school dropout, able to carry on a conversation and refute his claims logically. That's got to be a blow to the ego.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Bearsworth. How you doing tonight, bro?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Yeah, no, it's so crazy. It's so obvious. Like I'm a tradesperson, and like even in trade school, like 15, 20 years ago, we all knew, and then we were told right up front, like you're gonna learn like 95% on the job training.
Yep.
And that is how you learn, on the job, learning from experience. All the book work is just bullshit. It's all just credentials. It's all just paperwork. It's all just the government system pushing all this bullshit. 99% is, yeah, you learn everything on the job. And
I look at it like it's a big brainwashing factory, right? And it's like I mean, Jesus Christ, I couldn't believe these people were going around going, yeah, I got to take my SATs. And I'm like, what's that for? You know, I'm in school. I didn't even care. And they said, oh, it's to see how good I can do to get into a good college. And I'm like, you're going to go for more of this fucking bullshit? Really? It's sort of like, hey,
100%.
would you like extended brainwashing? Yes, please.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then they've gone through 12 years of indoctrination, and it's all a ritual too, man. Like it's even deeper when you look at like all the breakdowns of how it goes, and then you get your the black cap,
Yeah, yeah,
that you got your 12 years of indoctrination, and you don't speak against it. And yeah, even listening to, I just saw an interview with Charlie, I forget his name, and Andy Kaufman, and Andy Kaufman, the doctor guy, um, is explaining it, all of the doctors, that how they're under so much pressure and so much debt
yeah,
and so much, and so they just, and everything's repeat. You never get to dig into any of the actual history or ask any questions of how we got to this point,
yeah,
or anything. It's just multiple choice, repeat. If you can repeat the best and have the best memory, then you'll be at the head of your class,
yeah,
and follow instructions, and yeah, be the best lapdog, then you'll be at the head of your class.
yeah.
Any outside of the box thinking, or anything. It's insane that people don't see this.
Well,
Well, it's almost it's malpractice because their first oath is to do no harm. I mean, if you're knowing doing if something that you know that is doing harm to somebody, but you know your book says that you need to do it this way, or this computer says that you need to do it that way, like put them on a ventilator.
But they
yeah.
don't
Um,
know. They don't know. That's the problem. That's because they've been brainwashed. They don't. They think
Well, it's
that that
they're trained.
not all.
They treat symptoms. They don't treat patients. They used to, and they've about run them out of practice. They used to be doctors of osteopathy, okay,
yeah.
a DO, and they're more involved with the entire patient. You know, if you go to treating just the symptom, it'd be like somebody keeps coming in and they got a rash on their arm, right? You just keep treating the rash and you don't bother finding out why are you getting the rash? What are you exposed to? What kind
Exactly.
of conditions are you and your wife getting along okay? Is everything good at work? Is this a stress related thing? Is this an allergy? That's what they go to looking at, you see. Whereas this
Yeah.
guy
No.
says, oh, rash, hang on, let me go look in my thing. Oh, here's the proper pill for that.
Totally. There's no common sense anymore. Um, it's so funny. Like yeah, let's do a doctor about, or a bunch of interviews, and there's so many things. Like one was this doctor who was a trained doctor, and he kept getting rashes all over his arms for like 15 years, and he couldn't figure it out. He was talking to other doctors, and 15 years, and he's a doctor, couldn't figure it out, and they're washing their hands and scrubbing them like 100 times a day,
Yep.
and it took him 15 years before he figured it out. And then he stopped using the soap that they're using, and he stopped washing his hands as often, and just being gentle and using like less of this abrasive cleaner and shit. And his rash went away, but he had like multiple diagnoses of like thousands over 15 years, and all sorts of instances like that too. Also with brushing your teeth, um, had another guy had receding gum lines, and they gave him like numerous things, and then it hit him. He was brushing too hard with a hard toothbrush, and it's just like a simple fix, and they had multiple diagnoses of like all these different diseases, and it
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
out he was just like brushing too hard with a really hard toothbrush. He wasn't brushing
One of
properly,
one of the
and
ones
brushing
that
like three
gets
times a
me,
day.
one that gets me bears worth, and they've just done it so willy nilly. And to me, I think it's to me, in my opinion, it's a very dangerous. I think, but it's with because I just saw where a study was given. They said, oh, depression may not be, this study suggests that depression may not be a result of chemical imbalance. And I'm like, huh. But then I got to thinking about it. They just tell people, say, oh, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. And there may be people here right now that they've been diagnosed and told that. And they give them usually what's called an SSRI, right? Well, the interesting thing I've noticed is they don't do any kind of tests to see what kind of chemicals are imbalanced at all.
It's just all hearsay.
They just say that, and then boom. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah. And people take it for granted because, well, he's a doctor. He would know, right? And I'm thinking, Wait a minute. How do you know that without testing it? Nobody drew out any brain chemicals out of me or anything, and checked them or.
Yeah, no,
What
like
are they
I said,
doing?
I was depressed after high school to a therapist, and then she asked, "Oh, do you want medical treatment for that?" And I instinctively just said no. I don't know why, but I just said no, and I was just like, and then
Yeah, I
after a
could
while,
imagine.
I got through it, and I just moved on with my life without any chemicals.
Yeah,
Like so they don't actually study your brain.
they don't do
It's just
anything, man.
all hearsay.
Same with me in high school, man. I went through some social stuff and like grade 11, and went to the counselor and said I'm kind of depressed. The first freaking thing they did was prescribe. Like within a week of going to the counselor, they're like, got me on drug. Took this some Prozac. I took it one, and I like stared at a light bulb for like an hour, and I was just like, can like zone out. And I told my mom I'm never fucking taking that shit again. And that might be one of the reasons. The truth is, like that was like the first thing.
You're
Yeah, I was like
you're
17,
roboting. You're
16.
roboting really bad, Bearsworth.
Oh shit! I thought that was me.
Sorry.
Yeah, your mic keeps going in and out. Well, okay, so I think it's what is the name of the family? I think it's the Solvay family, I believe, in Belgium. That they were the ones that made that stuff. Let's see, what is this? I got something from Ryan. Ryan may be joining us here. Yeah, pretty soon. Oh, you know that nonstop flight route that I was talking about, right? I looked to see how much that thing costs. The cheapest one is $1,500. The cheapest seat. Whoops. The cheapest seat on that plane is $1,500. It ranges from $1,500 to $3,300. I think I could deal, for a lot less. I would deal with the stops. I definitely would deal with the stops. But that 787's got a fucking range on it. It's fast too, man. It does like 0.9 Mach 0.9. Fucking thing's fast too, boy. But I can't see spending $1,500 on a fucking plane ticket. I did fuck that. I'm just not. And those are the ones, see, they first class, they put you up front and everything, and they charge you like on a regular airline, they charge you extra money to be up front of the airplane. I'm like, why are people paying extra money to be the first ones to the accident scene? I want to sit in the fucking back of the plane. You don't ever hear that motherfucker backing into a mountain, right? That's where I want to be. I don't want to be up front in the fucking airplane. This is all there is to it. Here's the thing I was thinking too. Wouldn't it be safer if they faced everybody backwards? I mean, it seems to me it would be safer if airplanes they always go front ways into shit, right? When they crash. So if you're facing the opposite direction of the collision, wouldn't that be a lot safer for you?
Yeah, that totally makes a lot of sense.
Oh, like have the seats like back to back kind of thing. Don't they have that in military planes?
Just have all the seats facing to the rear of the airplane.
Yeah.
Oh,
that makes a lot of sense.
But don't they have it like in military airplanes? Like they have that seat back to back kind of thing, like where one guy goes out and then
they got little jump seats they put in cargo planes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, no, like passenger planes, I mean, it just even automobiles, right? Think about this for automobiles. Why does everybody, the driver, of course, I can see has to face and operate and see the road and shit. But wouldn't it be just safer to have the people that are the passengers turned around facing backwards? Seems like it'd be a lot safer in a collision.
But they would have, but there's airbags though, right?
Right. But I mean, still, you wouldn't even have to have the airbags. You got the whole fucking seat.
Yeah, no, that makes
Plus,
sense.
it makes it easier to talk to your buddy next to you, too. He's like, you just look over straight at him, not have to go like that, see?
So I don't know how much people would like that because facing like the back of the car. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Why,
Yeah.
that's like a psychological thing that we have, that everybody has to be facing. Like even in a train, if you think about it, you can't see out the front of the train car. You can't see out the back of the train car, but they got the fucking seats all facing all toward the front of the fucking thing. Why?
Well, yeah,
It's
it's
'cause this is how it's like how our brains work, man. It does bother people. They'll get ill if they're traveling backwards. It fucks them up somehow. I don't know why that is. There's little psychological things. I love to watch how people react to things. Like since cell phones have come out and everybody's got one of these things and they can never put the fucking thing down. If you want to try something that's just be sitting around with some people and somebody got their cell phone just laying there, just reach like you're going to grab their phone and watch how quick they grab that fucking thing and look at you like they'll act like you tried to grab their nuts. They will. They'll act like you just literally tried to grab their fucking nuts, man. And it's like, what? Why are you? That's my phone. Yeah, I know. I just wanted to look at it. No, you can't look at my nuts. Get away from that. It's bad, man. It's like it's a piece of there. It's people act like it's actually a part of them. This is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I'm kind of scared now because they have that watch now. You can like pay. You can like tap pay with the watch.
Yeah.
And I was like to somebody, what's stopping them putting a chip in your wrist and going like that? Why do you have to wear that pesky watch? You can just put the chip in your wrist and boom, and there you go. And then they can probably track you. Like once you have that chip in you, they have you.
Well,
and then
they don't have to put it in you. These fucking people won't let loose of the goddamn thing in the first place. Look how quick they'll freak out. The first thing, they'll go out the door. Oh, fuck, I forgot my phone. Oh shit, where's my phone? Constantly. This is like, you don't have to embed it in the skin. These motherfuckers won't put them down.
Yeah, I'm the same boat, man. Like I am bad with my phone too. It's retarded sometimes. Yeah. Listening to videos all the time, always have my headphones on.
Well, think about what they've done. They've done this really now. When I was a kid, I knew by heart all of my friends' phone numbers. Right? I knew their numbers by heart. And I could just see, and that was with the rotary dials, that took a little bit.
I point that out to my customers all the time about phone numbers, about maps, about phone numbers. Like I recently couldn't remember my mom's number or my brother's number. And so many things. Everything we rely on for convenience ends up like totally screwing us over, and we forget how to do this stuff. Yeah,
it becomes a tool of enslavement.
Math also, even math, having a calculator in your hands at all times. I'm doing bills up for customers, and every time I leave my phone in my van, and then I'm like, fucking, what's 2 divided by, or this number for the taxes or whatever.
You gotta do the long division, like
and I'm adding up on my hand. And back in the day, I even I've had customers that are old school, like that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they like make fun of me, and he's like, I can do that in my mind, like I'm like, this is terrible. It's we call it the Swiss Army knife. Our phones are like a Swiss Army knife.
It's a chimera device. We call it a phone because the first little personal devices that looked like that were just a phone. Then they added the SMS and the date and the calendar and made it into a PDA. Remember, then we had a PDA. It's a phone and a PDA. Now it's just it's a chimeric device. It's a chimera device where it's everything. You can use it for a compass. You can use it for like you were saying, your calculations. It's our connection to everything on the internet. It's
my guitar tuner. Anything you have, like anything. Like I gotta tune my guitar, and I'm like, shit, I gotta download that app again and tune my guitar quick and freaking it's crazy. Like how much, but it's all in the A's of, or like the it's all like a luxury, or what is it called?
Well, even think about this. Think of when cell phones first came out, right? They were those big bricks, right? And then they got a little bit smaller, and it was usually only douchebags had them. You know, some fucking rich bitch douchebag who would always want to use it in public, you know, so people could see him using it and everything, right?
I'm just
And
thinking
then,
like the Night of the Roxbury.
yeah, yeah.
Make sure you bring your phones with you. This like a fucking throws a brick.
So I mean, that's and now
Cool.
you know that became you know, so it was my point being is that it was a luxury, right? And then it became affordable where everybody could have it. And then now you can't live or participate in society pretty much without one. Okay. Same thing happened with an automobile. Okay. Why does anybody need to be in that kind of a hurry to get somewhere? Those things are loud, they're noisy, and they scare the horses. Okay. Then here comes Henry Ford and makes a Model T that everybody can afford. He makes a car that everybody can afford. Then everybody's got one. Now they're cool, right? Everybody has this luxury of the rich. Now you can't live without an automobile. You have to have an automobile. Same thing with a computer. Oh, that's just, you know, frivolous. You don't need that. And then we got the internet. Hey, that's pretty cool. What a great luxury that we have to be able to access all the world's knowledge at the touch of our fingertips. Now you can't even look for a job without the fucking thing. You see? You're
Yeah, well,
enslaved by
totally.
it.
Technology is killing our society. Yeah, and totally dumbing us down
Yeah.
and entrapping us. Yeah, it's enslaving us. Technology is actually enslaving us. And yeah, Max Egan says it all, man. He's like been saying for years, just throw your phones away. If everybody, or like even 40% of the people, or 20% of the people, just threw their phones, their smartphones away and refused to use them, like we would, their plans would be done probably.
Anonymous was saying that they've traveled thousands of miles on Amtrak. I rode Amtrak out to California one time. I would say, yeah, it's really a horrible way to travel. It is. It really is. I used to say if you wanted to attract every fucking weirdo in the world, just put up a Greyhound sticker in your window, right? Because that's where you run into them is at the Greyhound station. But no, Amtrak's got that beat because they travel. There's like weirdos going all the way across the country and shit. Just some really strange fucking people. Really.
I,
And
I got lost in the country using Google Maps, and
my
so I pulled over
train,
the road. Yeah, I pulled over the road, and someone drew me a map on where I needed to go, and that was like actually way more helpful than the Google Maps. I'm just like, oh, my brain's just reverting back to like what our ancestors did, where we're out in the country and like, hey, we need help. They'd ask a Native American, hey, I need help. Then they just draw them. This is where the creek is. This is where the trees are. You know, so where I am, like, there's no marked roads, so basically have to go off of like marks, and then this instinctively, like, I just the part of my brain just turned on, that I didn't use.
you know,
You know,
I was on that train to California. It was called the California Zephyr. These trains have names, you know. And we were going through this place called Crown Hill in West Virginia. And it was getting to be nighttime. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there in this thing, I'm reading, and all of a sudden the brakes on that train hit. I heard see these sparks flying up outside the fucking windows. And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on? And I feel something go thump, 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 thump on the floor underneath of me. And I'm like, what in the fuck was that? Right? So they got us stopped. Come to find out what it was. And they had us delayed there for about a good hour and a half. And what had happened was somebody jumped out in front of the train and killed themselves. And what I heard go thump, thump, thump was body parts hitting the bottom of the train underneath my feet. And they were out there with a fire hose and spraying off underneath the fucking thing and looking for any left human remains and shit. That's why we were there all that time. And all the people on the train, when they found out that it was somebody committed suicide on the train, they were pissed off because it was going to make them late.
oh,
I'm not kidding. Bearsworth
Oh
is
man.
showing up backstage, but he says his devices are not connected. He might have to plug his stuff in or something. I don't know. But yeah, I couldn't believe that. I was flabbergasted. I'm like, oh my God, that thump I just heard under my feet and felt was like probably that guy's head or something, you know? And these people are like, God damn it, I'm going to be late. My people are expecting me at such and such a time. And I'm like, somebody just fucking died right under the train, man.
Did you just tell your boss that somebody committed suicide and you're late? Like, I think that would be a
Oh
good
my God.
explanation. Like, fuck.
Yeah. And it was probably, you know, one of those little tiny fucking towns in West Virginia. Probably found out that his girlfriend was sleeping with Billy Bob and he's going to get drunk and end it all. You know, you get a
Yeah.
lot of that, man. You know, don't listen to country music, man. It'll make you drink and your wife will leave you.
Country music is my guilty pleasure. I just love that, like, all the singers sound the same and that kind of
Oh,
twang, and they're like, oh
George
my
Jones.
Chevy truck
Do you
in
like
the back
George?
road.
You like George Jones?
A
Because
little
I'll tell
bit.
you what, if you don't drink and you listen to George Jones, your chances that you do drink will increase greatly. That's some of the saddest shit I ever heard in my life, man.
Oh,
And
I think I did hear a song. I was like, holy shit, I'm getting depressed. I better change the fucking.
he
It's
said, "I
like
love
talking
you."
about. There was this
Said,
one song. I don't know if it was George Jones, but it was this song about like this like drug addict, like lady drug addict, and it was just like this really sad storyline, and then she ended up dying of a overdose. I was just like, oh my god.
well, the
It's like,
one,
what the fuck?
the best one by George Jones. That's a real tearjerker. Well, there's actually two real good ones. I play both of them, but the one is how's it go? He goes, he said, "I love you till I die." She told him, "You'll forget in time." Well, anyway, the way the song is going is that he stopped loving her today. Well, that was the day he died, right? And he's like talking about that he went to the funeral home and it was the first time he'd seen him smile in years and shit, you know, because he said he'd love her till he died. And then he died that day. And it was the first time he'd been happy since the woman left him.
Oh
And then
no.
there's another one about a guy. It's called Yabba Dabba Doo, and the picture it paints is that this guy goes, "Last night I broke the seal on a Jim Beam decanter that looked like Elvis, and soaked the label off of a Flintstone jelly bean jar." And so he's drinking his collector's Jim Beam out of his Elvis, out of a Flintstone jelly jar. And all he has is this little table. And he gets so drunk, he starts talking to Elvis and Fred Flintstone and shit. And it's really a pitiful fucking story. It really is. And you got to listen to some George Jones if you're going to soak up the
Why do they sing about Chevy trucks and girls? Like,
well, they
stick
do.
to
They
that.
do.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that one? Guitars and Cadillacs and hillbilly music. That's who is
Oh.
that? Is that Hank Jr., I think. See, I was not really exposed to country music until I moved to Virginia and started working construction. And we'd ride in these vans, you know, go all the way up to Northern Virginia, work in a suburb, building houses, and then ride all the way back. Well, these guys are all listening to country music on the way, and I got kind of used to it to a point where I started liking it. And I was like, okay, I can deal with that shit now. You know, as long as I understand where it's born out of and what it's doing, I can yeah, Dwight Yoakam. That's right, Gwag. That's who does that one. Guitars, Cadillacs, and hillbilly music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things out of country music. You know, and then you can point, if you notice though, there again, a good point on perspective, you know, And a lot of times you can go stereotypical, which can change your perspective on anything, and especially like with music like that. People like to often point to the tearjerker, you know, like what happens if you play country music backwards, you get sober, your wife comes back, the train's on time, you know. And so, you know, so people have that stereotype of it, but there's some really good songs in country music that they ain't all about that. Just like not all rock and roll is singing about, you know, Satan and shit, you know, although you do have, there's that genre that does, you know. So it's all people base their perspective on their beliefs is basically what happens.
Have you ever heard of Hootie and the Blowfish?
Yeah.
There's a black guy singing. He just sounds Darius Rucker.
Darius Rucker.
You go, holy shit! That guy
he went.
You know,
he went country. Yeah. Darius Rucker went country. He won some awards too.
Yeah.
Oh, what is
I just remember the first time I saw it, I was just like, whoa, that's a black guy singing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and Ball, I did. And we discussed that. We discussed that earlier. In fact, I found some video of where a guy actually kept the compass while he was on there. They're taking the same straight route, and Ball. They're just not making any stops. They're using the Boeing 787, which is a much longer range and much bigger aircraft. I didn't even know they had the 787. So back.
What's this nonstop flight that you can sign up to?
Yeah, it's your cheapest ticket for that one's going to be about $1,500. We were looking into it last night, and that's supposedly it goes from Santiago to Sydney. It's a straight shot. You'll have the coast of the United States, Canada, all that. It's going to end up being on the starboard side of the airplane. Probably not visible from that vantage point. But
where does it start from? Santiago,
Chile.
Santiago, Chile, and you go through Canada.
Well, it goes to Sydney. Let me show you.
Okay.
It's the same as the other routes, except without making the stops. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, on the flight tracker, it shows it doing like this, right? And I'm like, no, they're not doing that. And I found where Max Egan had taken that flight with a compass on board. And the thing that shows you where you're at on the display on the seat in front of you, was showing him going one direction, but the compass was actually showing that he was actually going southwest. So there's a little bit of deceit going on with that. I'm trying to find that.
I remember you telling me about like the flight pattern, like on the round Earth, you would think it would go from Santiago, Chile to Sydney. It would go.
Well, it would come up. They come up into the United States. They come right up into the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, but they have stops. They have stops. I'm trying to find I have a. God, I need to organize.
Oh, but you're saying there's one that's like a nonstop,
it's
and
nonstop, so it just goes straight.
It just goes right.
Here we go. This one. Let me. Okay, so this is with the stops. Now you can see my pointer. What they showed was this. They showed this right here.
Right.
And that isn't what they're doing. Okay. They went, whoops, wrong way. Okay. From here and just went straight. They just went straight. You see, they just went straight. Here, they're making stops. That looks like Atlanta. This one here is in Canada. This one, St. Louis, is looking like that's where that stops. Then it goes over. This one here goes to LA and then over. Of course, these are smaller aircraft. Now there's only the one flight offered that's the nonstop that they say is going what, like this?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a ball. You can look up
No,
the name.
even if that's true, that would be wrong. It would just go due west if it was according to a ball
Right.
map that we're using, right?
Well,
I
they
don't know.
don't use a ball map. That's the whole thing. I don't know. These
Oh.
people sometimes think that I don't know what they think, that there's a what, like a globe in the cockpit of the aircraft or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, the earliest flight maps, I've got one from 1946, an air map. It's the same azimuthal equilateral projection and showing these same flight routes, but even more, like going from South Africa to different places. Yeah. So what they're doing here, I ain't got that up there anymore. But yeah, it's just, instead of coming into the United States, they just go ahead and go straight. There's no need to bypass. And it's also will be a shorter flight for the fact that they can actually ride current winds. That's pretty cool. But if you're not making stops, taxiing, taking back off, which this one, like this one right here, has got 1, 2, and then finally a stop. So you're talking an hour and a half on the ground, maybe an hour on the ground. People get,
well, nowadays it could be 12 hours. God knows what.
Yeah. Well, this one can, they can do it. They've done it in 12 hours, but it averages out. Sometimes it's actually longer, but it is a nonstop route using the 787. So
there's a lot of issues with airports nowadays. I don't know. Here in Canada, like
here,
Sunwings stopped.
maybe M Ball needs to see that video again. I'll see if I can bring it up for him. Let me go into my history. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just going to say there seems to be a shortage of pilots, and there's a lot of delayed flights and flights getting canceled. And
yeah, there's another. Yeah, well, the Flight Tracker website is using a different total map. I have a picture. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
I did take a picture of it. So let me see. What I'll do is I'll send it to. So that's going to be a distorted thing too. Let me bring this up. He wants me to show what was on Flight Tracker. Okay. And so this is what was shown on Flight Tracker. So you think they went way down, like in a big curve like that, M-Ball? That's what you're thinking? Well, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe you should watch. Here's a guy took a compass, actually, on. Whoops. I'm going to show this again. I showed it at the beginning, but I didn't have a whole lot of people in here, so we can do this on here. Let me go ahead and make this big.
As you can see, the compass is clearly showing southwest or west-southwest, and the on-screen display is showing it is going northwest. Something is clearly weird about that particular flight, which seems to show northwest as the intended path of the flight, yet Max clearly showed flight was showing southwest on his compass, and he claims that it showed southwest the entire time he was awake. Let me show you a flat earth map so you can get an idea of why that's a big deal. Now let me look at the flight as it would take place here on the Gleason's map, and if you look at the lines that have the green on them, those are lines where the plane would be flying northwest. The line with the purple would be flying about west, and then all the yellow lines would be flying southwest. So the interesting thing there is when Max said that the second half of his trip, the entire time he was awake, his compass was showing southwest. That would make sense with all the yellow lines, as you see. Remember, north is relative to where you're at, with south behind you. So that's what those little pink lines show us. And as you can see, all the yellow lines are actually a southwest flight direction, where on a globe, he should have been going northwest.
Oh, my bad.
Longest flight ever made for any airliner. The inbound flight, due to the winds, depends arrives up to 16 hours and 45 minutes. Flight time, not block. Just when you take off until
So that was see his flight, that thing on the back of the seat. I don't know if you've flown, John.
Yeah.
But if you like that little thing that folds down your table, there's a little TV screen right there. You can rent movies, that kind of shit, whatever.
Yeah.
And it'll also show you where your plane is at, right? And as you can see, that one had a compass to it saying that he was going the northeast when he was actually going southwest, because the guy had a compass while he was on the plane and it was showing going southwest, but the compass on the fucking thing was showing it going a different direction. So it makes sense, absolutely, by his compass as well, that where those yellow lines were appearing, that's where what the compass was reading. That's exactly what the compass was reading. So he was actually at that, going in that southwesterly direction. So it's not a big deal, but interesting. I didn't know they had the I was unaware of the 787. I thought the 77 or the 777 was like the biggest plane that they had out there now. And it's not. This thing is big. There's actually 3 models of it, 3 or 4 models of it. And each successive one has even more capabilities than the other. So
So he said the flight time was 16 hours and 45 minutes. Did he have to factor in the rotation of the Earth?
They never factor that in. That's another thing too. It's like, come on, what the air. So they say, oh well, the atmosphere goes around the same as with the ball, dude. We've got winds at high altitudes that are outrunning the Earth, right? And some of them going in the opposite fucking direction. So what the fuck, right? I mean, none of that makes any sense whatsoever. That would mean that the air is what, like a gel or something? That makes 0 sense. You know, that's the wind. How do you explain a wind that blows against the fucking spin of the Earth? I mean, that's just dumb. You know what I mean?
Because like on the Weather Channel, I always see the jet stream. It's coming from west to east. Yeah. And I always thought, oh, that must be like the rotation of the Earth or something. But yeah, now you're saying that they have winds.
That video was shot just a couple of years ago too. Like I said, they've increased the flight time. They've got better planes. Not a big deal. Thing goes Mach 0.9. Okay. I mean, let's get real. That's a fast fucking airplane. I was tracking its speed. So yeah.
So you're saying that there's like jet streams that go
down like that? I'm just making stuff up. Okay, Ball, just because it doesn't fit into your stupid shit, whatever. You know, did you find any curvature yet, Ball? Did you find any? No. Can you show me any provable curvature? How about a demonstration of a gas pressure system inside of a vacuum without containment? You got that? Without any of that, your globe is just that, a fanciful fantasy that somebody thought up without really thinking.
You ever thought that water could be curved?
I was honest about it. Did you not see me show a fucking screenshot of the goddamn flight tracker? Did you not see that? Did you also not see me show a fucking video of a guy who took a goddamn compass, a reputable guy that most people here have heard of, that is very honest, takes a fucking compass on there and it shows that he's going a different direction than what the goddamn thing on the back of the seat tells him. When you track it out on a flat map, it works out perfectly. So what are you talking about being honest? I showed everything there is to show about it. Even gave you the model of the airplane. So there you go. Whatever.
Well, have you ever factored in that the water could be curved?
Ball, there is no way that they had an actual flight speed of that aircraft because it was in an estimated mode. There was nothing that can pick it up. When you see that thing with a blinking light going around it, when you see it going like that, when it's over those large expanses of water, that means it's an estimated mode. So it was last recorded going 555, and that's why you see all the different little stops on the flight line, is because those are estimations. Those are estimations, okay? What? You never showed any logic why they would say Earth a globe if it wasn't. Yes, we have shown that a long lot. In fact, I think I brought it up just a little while ago. I think I just brought it up a little bit ago. But can you think of any reason why they would lie about the shape of the Earth? Why they would tell you you are on a ball? What if you actually believed that all the land that you know about is actually really all the land that you know about? What if that wasn't true? What if there was more land? Yes, M-ball, the estimation of the plane's location based on the data, trajectory, and flight plan was there, absolutely live. There was no, it was not communicating with anything at all. There nothing to communicate at that distance. Sorry, babe. Sorry.
That UN map just trips me out.
It's, you know, yeah, you might have
Hey
thought
guys,
that.
this is your trusted source right here. The UN just puts it.
I want to
right
ask
here.
M-ball, were you communicating with that aircraft? Can you get any recordings of them communicating with that aircraft when it was out in those areas? I bet you can't. You know why? Because they weren't within radio distance. That's why.
I heard of
yes, it can make that. Look at the range of the plane. Especially, and you also, what you're not taking into account either is you don't know what they do with these winds either. But in any case, show me curvature or shut the fuck up. That's all I can say about it. Look, I don't give a fuck. Show me curvature or you have nothing. Show me an example. Show me a demonstration of a gas pressure system in a vacuum without containment. Then we can talk. Until you got that, you got nothing. Okay? Absolutely nothing.
But wasn't gravity discovered when Isaac Newton, there was an apple that fell on his head and hit his head?
Yeah,
like,
that's what
gravity.
It said. However, you know, that's a story, and there is absolutely no documented evidence of that. None. Not even from Newton. It's just a story.
Like a force, oh man, we're so heavily indoctrinated. So, okay, so basically, from what I understand, that apple is denser than air, so that's why it falls. Like it's a dense material.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because if the apple would have fallen into a bucket of water, then what would have happened?
It would have floated.
Right. So where's gravity at now?
In the water? No, sorry.
If it was gravity, it should pull that apple all the way to the bottom of the bucket. It should be pulling everything down. It can't be selective.
So you talk about like buoyancy, right?
Downward vector is just an electrical function. Same thing that makes your hair, if you had it. No, not trying to offend you now, John. No, you know, like how you can take a hairbrush, and after you brush your hair, and you can kind of go like that. If it's dry, you can go like that, and your hair will follow the brush around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can rub a balloon, and it'll want to stick to the wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just an electrical function. It's the buoyancy and density sorts everything out. That's all.
So that's what you're saying earlier with all of the electricity in the air. Basically, it's like shifting around. It's like same thing with a helicopter. If you want to shift it around, you shift like electrical energy to one side over the other, right? And make it go that way, kind of thing.
There was a buoyant balloon they had is I saw this experiment. I'd like to find the video of it because it's really cool. I've shown the MIT drone before, but this thing had like a button, and you know how like a helium balloon, it'll go up to the ceiling, you leave it up there, and then a couple days later you see it's coming down a little bit, and it's just kind of like floating in the air, like at mid-level. Anyway, they had like a metal button tied to the bottom string of it. It was hooked to a Van de Graaff generator, and they could make it rise or fall based on the increase or decrease of the positive charge given to that metal button. And so what they were actually doing was they were actually controlling the elevation by either making it negative, more or less positive of the electrostatic charge that was going to it. They have an MIT drone they came up with that flies on the exact same principle. There's no moving parts in it. They just change the electrostatic charge in the various parts of the platform, and this thing flies. I'm sure you've seen where they take the little aluminum triangle and put it onto a pad, and they change the charge, and that fucking thing flies up in the air. You got to hold it down with strings. Yeah, let me see. I'll find a thing for it. A foil lifter. Let me see. Where is that? See. Here we go. As soon as the commercial. 2, 1.
To show you is my asymmetrical capacitor that seems to work pretty well. Of course, down here we have a one plate circular, and around the top, supported by these little pieces of sticks of balsa wood, is my very fine wire, which is the second plate of the capacitor. And it's, of course, it's tied down here on one leg, a piece of thread here on the other leg, and on the third leg over there, another thread. And it's about, I guess it's about 8 inches in diameter, something like that. About 8 inches. And it's powered by a flyback out of an old computer monitor, which is driven by a rewind. It's actually a dual thief 7x2 winding, driven by a 2N3055 transistor, and powered by a 12-volt battery. Anyway, let's plug this thing in, and you'll be able to see it. It goes up with considerable strength. In fact, this here is a skewer stick, and well, actually, I hope that the battery's up enough. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. It's worth the weight of that. That's a hardwood stick, which would be comparable to a telephone pole. This thing was about 30 feet in diameter, but it's very, very little. I know a lot of people think it's ionic wind that drives these things, but you know, with this design, there's you feel nothing, basically nothing at all. There's so little ionic wind there, and this is quite a heavy thing, really. It's it's pretty heavy. Anyway, it's leaking a little bit, but when it runs good, it doesn't leak, and it really works quite well. It uses very, very little current, and you can see it's pretty dynamic the way it goes up. Let's see if I can get a back shot here. You hear it leaking a little bit. You hear the sound a little bit better. Anyway, like I said, there's so little ionic wind there. You can see what's not even pushing down this piece of paper. And this thing does weigh quite a bit. And there's if I put a piece of paper on top of it here, it has no effect on it at all. And it's really works quite well. I believe what it's doing is creating a gravity field above it, and it's actually trying to fall upwards. And this will go, few hours, really, on this little tiny bit battery here. And it's a pretty powerful little unit. Anyway, I just want to share that with you. Take a little closer look at it down below. About my sleeve here.
Anyway, that's pretty fucking cool too. It's you know, I mean, I see a lot of potential with that shit right there. I mean,
Yeah, it's interesting that he put the paper underneath and it didn't. The paper didn't rise up.
Yeah, you'd think it was an ionic wind, but it's not. And I mean, it's truly the fact that that thing, you know, you've reversed its polarity, and therefore it wants to repel away from the opposite polarity. Nice pun potential.
Did he say something about the gravity above it or something? Is this something? Oh, there's a gravity. I don't know if you heard that, but
well, see, because this has been thrown into our lexicon so hard, this word gravity, and it's amazing because it's like, here's a word that's thrown around and used, and nobody really knows what the fuck it means. Nobody knows really. But you ask them, what is gravity? I don't know. And then it depends on whether or not you're going with Einsteinian gravity or whether you're going with Newtonian gravity. You know, is it space-time pushing down? Well, no, I don't think anything like that is worth a fuck. You know, so I don't, and as far as matter attracting or mass attracting mass, I mean, don't get me wrong, Cavendish is a great experiment in torsion mechanics, but that's about all it is. You know, if actually, you know, larger mass attracted smaller mass, then you, by stand of reason, that the largest piece of furniture in your home, the heaviest, largest piece of furniture in your home would draw more dust than the other fucking pieces of furniture, right? But it doesn't. It all goes equally. So I don't know what he was hoping to explain using two fucking balls when you can just demonstrate that whole concept with what's around you. It's hogwash, you know? So
could you say gravity is an electrical force?
I believe,
yeah,
I'm fully on board with the idea of it being that actually it's just the downward vector. If electrostatics is like a million times stronger than what they'd say the force of gravity would be in the first place. I mean, so the downward vector, yeah, I would absolutely. I mean, we know we have a positive above us. We're standing on a neutral. This is how things behave in that type of an environment. A force like gravity, like they said, could not be as selective as the electrostatic force could be. You see, you have to, if you have a force that's holding billions and billions of tons of water from flying off of a spinning ball.
Oh, I see.
You see, all right, so it's like this simple with a force like that. If you put your hand up, in order for me to keep your hand from advancing any closer, I have to press against it with equal force. That's going to neutralize it. In other words, that's going to keep it in one spot. So in order for me to get it to go in the other direction, I have to apply more force, right? So this would mean that the force of gravity is stronger than the centrifugal force of billions of tons of water. Well, with that kind of a force, how is it being so selective that you are able to walk? A fucking hummingbird can just float right there in front of you, right? And a hot air balloon just flies away seamlessly into the sky. You see that it would have to hold everything equally as hard if that's what it was.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so basically it's just like it's a constant force, right, in the globe model. It's a constant force because you need that gravity in order for the ball to keep spinning and to keep falling off the earth. always thought that was weird. We're spinning in a ball and this water doesn't fall off. That's crazy.
I
But
know. I mean, I remember when that first hit me. I remember I
yeah,
was in kindergarten, you know, there's a
yeah,
globe in the kindergarten, and we'd been outside, and I just got off the merry-go-round where I'd scraped my elbow because it threw me off of it. And, you know, I'm like, I asked, you know, if the earth's spinning around, how does I'm not getting thrown off of it? And they said, well, because of gravity. And I was thinking,
right.
oh, what do you, I don't get it. What are you
Yeah,
talking about? You know,
because the force that you need to have to hold the water in, it would have to apply to airplanes, balloons,
yeah,
all of the like that electrical experiment there, that the ring there, the metal ring, or anything really. Um, yeah. So, but how could it be so selective though? That's the thing.
yeah, exactly. It's like gravity must have intelligence.
Yeah.
You see?
Okay, I could see that. At least, you know, gravity has a different. But could there be different forms of gravity in like different areas that we can measure, or is it all the same?
I would imagine it's probably I would have to think that it'd have to be pretty consistent, you
Right.
know. There again, taking into account different mediums, you know, different viscosities of mediums, that would have a bit to do with it as well. It's just there's more evidence to show, and also like with the MIT with this ring that was just flying. There's other such examples you can find that there's something demonstrable. There's something you can demonstrate. Whereas with gravity, even their high priest spokesman of the whole globe community, Neil deGrasse Tyson, what is gravity? Oh, I don't know. Next question. What do you mean? You don't know? Well, we don't know. Then, you know, it's like saying, you know, unicorn farts. You might as well.
Right.
You've got just as much evidence of unicorn farts, and just because you use a variable in a formula and call it unicorn farts or call it gravity, it's still the same downward vector. Okay.
Mhm.
No one's questioning is there a downward vector? That's evident. Okay. What's in question as to what causes the downward vector. Okay. Whereas we can cause a downward vector or reverse the downward vector with an electrostatic charge. Whereas I can't take a ball of molten fucking iron and spin it around and say, oh, look, now we got some fucking shit sticking to it, gravity and stuff. It's like, no, you don't get to do that.
Okay.
So here's something that they call it
Yeah.
the theory of gravity, right? And then it's not proven, nothing about it proven other than what they call the downward vector gravity. So they want to apply this unknown principle to other objects that they see that they have no more idea about it than the fucking man in the moon. I mean, it's something you see. You can't ascribe these properties to it. Where are you getting this from? You're going to ascribe a theory because you treat it like fact?
Right. I mean, basically, you can. I guess in mathematics, I learned that if even if something is just speculation, if you know how to run equations, you can make it say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we could say, "Oh, gravity is a constant," and or whatever, and then I'll put that in my equation, and then I could justify that by saying, "Oh, well, you have to enter in, you know, instead of the buoyancy of the water, you just enter in the weight of the air balloon, and therefore
Well,
I can prove I don't know.
actual weight though? What is weight? Well, in Greek it's gravitas. where we get the word gravity, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
what is weight? All right. So if you take a anvil, for instance, and I can actually show you a video of this, but you can take an anvil and just, let's just say this iron anvil weighs 250 pounds. All right. So that's what it weighs. Now, if we change the medium and submerge it into a tub of mercury, which is much more dense than iron, that thing will float like a piece of styrofoam in that fucking thing. It will
I did
float. You
see
can
a
move
couple
it around.
videos about that.
So now what does it weigh? Now, a lot of times with morbidly obese people, in order to be able to get them to be able to exercise, they hoist them kind of into a pool, right? These people that have been real bedridden and shit, they're so big, they got to cut the door out to get them out and shit. You've seen them on some of these shows. But they put them in a pool. Why in a pool? Because it's easier to support their weight. Why? Because they weigh less in the water. Because the medium that they're in weighs more for the amount that they displace. Let's
But
consider.
wouldn't they sink though?
No, they're still gonna remain more buoyant than the water. They're still gonna remain more buoyant than the water. Okay, even if they're big, it's not about weight, it's about displacement. Okay, so for instance, you got to think of it this way: if you made a 3D sculpture of yourself out of air, which would weigh more, you or the sculpture? Well, you, of course, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
the statue, the sculpture, although it's identical to you in every way, shape, or form, is still much, much lighter than you are. And so that's the amount of that you displace. Now, how much would a sculpture of you made out of water weigh? Would it weigh more than you or the same as you? Well, it would weigh more than you.
Right.
Okay, so therefore, the lighter object is going to remain at the top. Everything seeks a level. It's all about equilibrium. So that's how you got to look at displacement. This is how they were figuring out how much gold was actually in a crown. Be able to do it by the amount of water that it displaced. The amount of water it displaced showed how much of the weight was there. How much of material was actually there. It's Archimedes principles of displacement.
Okay, so is there like a equation that you can measure how dense like mercury is as opposed to water? Whereas if you put that, I think that 200-pound object in water, or
Well,
you're
they'll
talking about
sink
fat
right to
people,
the
right?
bottom. Well, here's the thing, because the thing is like this. It's not so much about the weight. That if you were to take that iron, right there again, and then make a sculpture of it out of water, I'm just supposing you could.
Right.
Okay, you would find that the water weighs much less than that sculpture of iron.
Right.
Okay. All right. So therefore, the iron anvil being more dense, right, than the water, will seek equilibrium by going beneath the water. That's how that whole thing works. It's all about displacement.
Okay. So you're saying like if something weighs, it makes sense. So if something weighs, let's say 100 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and with the buoyancy of the water, and we did some mathematics, whatever, let's say it goes 3/4 of the way down in order to find its buoyancy. Now let's say there's something that weighs 50 pounds and it stays to the top.
But how big is it? That's the whole point. You see,
right?
If the object, you see, it's about how much it displaces. So you have to ask yourself, if I have this object and I make an exact duplicate out of it, made out of the water or oil or whatever medium that I've got it in, which one is going to weigh more? If it's the sculpture, then your object will float. If it's the object will sink. You see, and I use the example of a sculpture because you're going to displace an exact carbon copy of your likeness. Everything is displacing an exact copy of itself because two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, right? So essentially, where this is at right now, there is a hole in the air shaped exactly like this for it to be in, because there can't be any air where the object is at, right?
Okay. I remember you saying something about nature abhors a vacuum, and there's always going to be something that fills it in, right?
Right, right. Everything wants to equalize. Everything wants to equalize. That's why water always seeks a level, goes to the lowest point. There again, because water is denser than the air. Now, our lighter gases accumulate in the upper atmosphere because of the fact that they are lighter than the gases beneath it. For instance,
because when you boil water, it turns into, we've been told it turns into a gas, but steam,
right.
let's just say
Steam,
that, right?
right.
And so
right.
the water, but if you actually leave it on the lid, right? If you leave the lid on and have all that steam, all that water evaporates and it goes to the top. So what about like temperature? So if water is moving around,
okay, so like a cloud, here's the reason that millions of gallons of water can float in the sky in the form of a cloud. It's because of its dispersal rate, because it's spread out. So now, if we compare the weight of that water to the surrounding medium, we find that it displaces less and therefore floats. Once it condenses, that volume of water weighs more than the amount of air that it displaces, and it comes down.
oh, okay. So basically, like the water that evaporates, right, through heat or whatever.
Right.
It's amazing. How did what? But anyway, so it makes sense. But okay, it makes sense. So since now the water, when it heats up, it gets, some particles get lighter, and then it evaporates into the air once it gets lighter than air,
Well,
and then it
it's
goes
not
into
so
a
much
cloud.
as the particles get lighter, the particles spread out further from themselves. They spread out further and further away from each other, thereby
Okay.
making the entire mass weigh less than what it's displacing. But see, that's a funny subject in itself. Water,
Yeah.
They can't even create water, man. I mean, you could take a tank of hydrogen, a tank of oxygen, all that shit. You can't make water. Can't like mix it together and make water.
You can't?
No. And here's a funny thing too, is that it's like really crazy how if you take the atomic weights of hydrogen and oxygen and then you add together two, and one oxygen, and then take what the atomic weight of water itself is. Water, when they combine, somehow it adds weight to it. Somehow it gets heavier. Somehow it's crazy shit, man. It's like they can't create it. It's really mysterious. It holds memory.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
because it basically, whatever it comes in contact with, that's what it holds. Like, it evaporates through the air and then it goes down. And yeah, it's quite fascinating.
yeah. I'm just kind of looking over here. You can easily make water. Okay, and Ball, you go ahead and make some water. You go ahead and just grab the ingredients. If you're talking about condensing water out of the atmosphere, out of the air, that's not what we're talking about. You cannot take hydrogen and oxygen and mix them together and make fucking water. Sorry, babe.
So then
These
what the hell
fucking,
is water made out of?
look, I don't know where these fucking artards came from. I know where that fucking dipshit Lisa came from. My God, that girl sucks on holsters and boots so bad. I know she smells like leather polish. She has to. So I don't even know, but in any case, they're just have you ever heard the term turd in a punch bowl?
Yeah.
That's what you got going on there.
They could just be bots again.
They'll argue about whatever. Lisa over here saying water can be made. Oh, Nick sent them. Well, I figured anybody that would follow Nick Volt, then Fios con Dios, baby. Fios con Dios. He's the one that tried to, you was there where he was trying to run that fucking shit about you can tell the distance to the moon by holding up a quarter.
All those people.
Yeah, I had to actually demonstrate fucking perspective. He's a physics professor. I had to actually demonstrate perspective like I did with those, well, exactly with those same two objects. It's like, look, a big object far away can look like a small object close up. So that means your little quarter trick's going to give you the same distance for both objects, which we know is not true. So some people love being slaves. They do. But either way, I don't even know why Lisa even comes over to my fucking channel at all. Probably had to be Nick. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. So.
Well, that's just cognitive dissonance. It's just.
Well, there's just some people that are just so immersed that they're just assholes. They really are. They're so immersed that they're in assholes. And it's like, I'm going to sit here and argue with people about a fucking airplane. I don't give a fuck. Go ahead and argue about the airplane. You come back with proof of curvature, I'll be here. Right? Okay. You give me a demonstration of a gas pressure system without containment, I'll be here. Until then, nobody's going to fucking space. Nobody's on a fucking ball. You're not spinning around. There's no expanding fucking galaxies and shit. That's just retarded to even think that. I mean, yeah.
Well, then how could you provide... there's a Big Bang theory about everything is always exploding and we came from this one atom. And it exploded into many molecules, and this is how we came from the universe. But if that's true, how could they describe what we're describing about water, about expanding and contracting?
Well,
doesn't everything?
If a tornado comes in exactly from the southeast through a junkyard, it will restore, polish, and gas up 657 Chevys. You have way more likelihood of that happening than some random fucking explosion causing a lumpy space vacuum. Think about this. The idea that gases are going to come together in a vacuum, when we just discussed nature of horrors, they want to equalize. It would disperse to its thinnest point. It wouldn't come together. That's ridiculous. And how does an explosion of any kind, whenever have you ever heard of the pieces of an explosion ever getting closer together? They radiate away from the epicenter of the explosion and get farther and farther apart from each other all the time. So if your galaxy is expanding, as you say, and always has been expanding as a result of this phenomenal explosion, that would mean that none of these magic space balls of gas or space balls of dirt could have ever formed, could they? Because everything is expanding. So you can't have it both ways. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They tell you these fantastical stories, and you're just supposed to, oh, sure. Why do you believe that? Well, look at that guy. He's wearing a lab coat. Oh, okay. The fuck, man.
Or we came from tadpoles.
Really?
or even better, abiogenesis. We came from a dead bacteria to a living bacteria, even though there's no proof. And even if you Google abiogenesis, there's studies that in the 1800s that disprove that theory.
Well,
They'll still talk about it, and then I swear there's like an atheist channel. Like I swear they say the stupidest shit just so they can get people to debate them on, so they get content on. I don't think they actually believe any of the shit they say. Honestly,
no, I don't either. I really don't. I really don't. I really don't. Yeah. They're so it's like, and it's so simple. It would be so simple. And I don't know why they still hold on to that dumb shit. It's like, look, you have no physical proof or measurable evidence of any curvature. Okay. Everything that you send us from space is nothing more. It's fraudulent. Every last bit of it. Where was that thing? Let me pull this up. This was great. This happened. Let me see if I can find, where did that come from? There it is. Let me pull this up here in just a second.
So when they have satellites, when they show satellites,
they took it down.
Uh-oh.
Damn. This kid,
too spicy.
Young man at a county commissioners meeting down there in, was it Broward County, I think, wanting to go and have them investigate NASA for fraud. And he was talking about, because every day they give us fraudulent fucking videos and green screen and all this CGI nonsense that's provable that it's just nonsense. And now it's been taken down. My cousin.
Oh, it was on YouTube, or what was
it
on?
It was on Facebook.
Oh wow!
Let me see if I can find it on YouTube.
I think the safest way to store information nowadays is in books.
Oh yeah,
firm believer in that.
Let's see. Let's see. Suing. Let's see. Calls for suing. I'm trying to see if I can find it. You probably won't be able to. They're all the same fucking Google alphabet bullshit company. They really are, man. And that's what cracks me up. It says,
well, maybe if you catch it early enough.
You don't believe me? Just go on Google. And I'm like, are you a fucking moron? You use Google? Are you shitting me? Right? Well, it's on Wikipedia.
Are there actually people who still depend upon Wikipedia? I didn't know that was still a thing.
Yes. Every one of these fucking ball head people too, man. Every one.
Oh no.
Every one of them. Every single one of them.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I can't. Let's see. There's a shit. Let's see. Broward County. I bet you it's on other platforms.
What if you check DuckDuckGo?
Well, see, this is the thing. I'm actually looking on I could do Yandex. Have you ever used the Yandex search engine?
Maybe once. I usually use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah. Well, DuckDuckGo has been kind of co-opted. What I like to do is from time to time I'll try out, like I'll do a search in like Google and then do a search in the other search engine and see what the difference is what I get. You see?
Yeah.
Now, another trick you can do, and Ryan was telling us about this, if you put in what you're looking for in parentheses, like, or quotation marks, it will give you the exact, it'll just go with that exact search criteria and you'll get better results that way. let's see. I'm wondering.
Have you ever used GPT?
Let's see. Listen, this is what I'm saying about that. All right. So here's what I think about the
I
chat.
heard it's even worse than Google. Like, it'll do like false articles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when people like have this, they're in this like echo chamber, and they have this like self feedback loop, and they think, oh, the world's gonna change because all they see on their feed is like progressivism or Donald Trump nationalism, like the like
Yeah,
like, oh, we're gonna have a revolution, because everyone on my feed are communists, and it's a self-fulfilling feedback, right? Chat GPT. So if you're actually like researching something, and I've seen somebody actually work it,
mm,
and so it'll type in, you can type in what happened in 9/11, and then so it'll write articles that are not real,
right,
but
right.
that will think that you want to find. It's just basically it's trying to read your mind into thinking what you want to see.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean it exists. And so like this guy's just like, you shouldn't use it unless you want to end your academic career.
Listen,
That's how bad it is.
the Chat GPT, all these AI. I think that there's a darker. I think there's darker shit involved with those.
Yeah.
Especially as I see, I don't know. It looks to me like it's almost. Imagine here's a good kind of a scenario. Just think of this. All right, so that area in Switzerland, it's in a place called Bern. All right, and this has always been known, even by the Druids, as a gateway to the underworld. Right. Well, this is where they put the Hadron Collider. I think they opened the pit. And I think that these AIs are actually fucking entities. I think these AIs are actually entities disguising themselves. Yeah, I'm just a computer program, da 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 da. But I think they're entities. I also
Like from the underworld?
Yeah.
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 No one talks about the underworld. It's always up there. What's going on up there? Like, we don't even like study the sea, nothing.
So it's almost like you could see it in prophecy of what's gone about with that whole thing. Now, like I said, this is just something I'm going, just consider this scenario. But when I see selective things, that are changed, and there seems to be patterns, and I'm talking about these things in the Mandela effect. I'm talking about some serious shit. The fact that it's statistically unlikely, if not damn near improbable, statistically improbable, if not impossible, for that many people to misremember all the same things. Okay. And especially when it comes down to things in the Bible. But we see there's patterns involved. There seems to be a lot of shit involved. Like, not saying that I'm not blaming them or anything, but there seems to be what we refer to as a German connection. Okay. And like, for instance, certain historical events that are like, what? Like, have you ever heard of the Black Tom explosion?
Black Tom explosion?
Yeah. When do you think was the biggest attack on New York City?
Oh, I don't know. I guess 9/11.
That's what everybody would say,
Right.
Okay, that's what everybody would say. But did you know that in 1916, German saboteurs set off an explosion in New York Harbor at the Black Tom facility that blew out all of the windows in Lower Manhattan, would have registered about 5 on the Richter scale, and damaged the torch arm of the Statue of Liberty so that nobody's ever been able to go up in it ever since. I've never heard of this, but apparently now this is something that happened in 1916. And it's one of the reasons we went to war with Germany in World War I. And I was like, that was the Lusitania. What? So I'd never, until recently, had ever heard of the Black Tom. Also, there's another thing in World War II, there again with the Germans, that there was apparently in an area right off the outer banks of North Carolina, they dubbed Torpedo Alley, where there was more than 500 American ships that were sunk by German U-boats. What?
Yeah.
Right off the
It's
coast.
not what we're taught. Yeah. Yeah.
How come we didn't know anything about this?
Yeah.
Right. So there's some crazy shit. Yeah.
I've heard of this line of like all history is fake, so why do we even study it? Because it's all kind of put there, right? And like they say, his story.
I think it was Voltaire that said history would be a marvelous thing if only it were true.
Yeah.
It might have been Bastat. I'm not sure. One of those guys. One of those old guys that may or may not have existed. That's where I go with shit anymore. People that may or may not have existed at some time. Like, because we know like this guy, Aristophanes, okay? Some Greek guy, they said that he figured out the circumference of the earth like 2,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago or some other ungodly thing, right? But nobody ever heard of him until like in the 80s or something. He just showed up in fucking textbooks. None of his contemporaries even wrote about him or said anything about him, even though he made this monumental achievement by having sticks in the ground and measuring their shadows over a 500-mile distance or some shit. And it's like, yeah,
that was in the 80s.
No, he supposedly did it back in ancient Greek times, but that's the first mention of him is in like the 80s in textbooks.
Oh man.
I mean, it's like they just made him up. Because none of his contemporaries even wrote about him. He's not even mentioned, right? And it's like, wait a second. So it's like, I wonder how many of these historical people, like, what's that other Greek guy? Pythagoras, Pythagoras,
Yeah.
And what's that other guy's name? Socrates, right? And Socrates and all them guys, it's like, how do you even know that they actually existed? For all we know, here's a statue of him. Well, so what? Somebody made a statue and said, yeah, this is this guy. I mean, how do I know that guy really fucking existed? How do I know he's not just part of some kind of a fabricated history?
How do we know Jesus Christ actually existed?
There you go.
Or Muhammad or whomever?
How do you know that this isn't your first day here? And that all your memories and your proposed life was all just implanted memories. And you just think you've been here all this time.
It's amazing because we actually like, we have like memories and we construct the, I guess what they always say, the now only exist. And the past and the future are just in your head.
Yes.
Right.
There's only now. There's perpetual now. The illusion of a linear timescape that we're participating in this experience. And this is what I find so interesting of so many of these near-death experiences that I've looked into. Is that whole relative concept of time. It's evident on DMT trips as well. It's like in that realm, time is an irrelevant thing. It's like 15 minutes outside here can seem like fucking days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like,
Well, it doesn't
like
it doesn't really seem like days. I mean, it's like you would have no idea. You just don't know how their time was an irrelevant thing. You were in you're in an experience, and it's like time just doesn't really exist. You know, it's really hard.
yeah, that is weird. Like I know, like we can measure time by how the sun rotates on the axis of the North Pole, right, and the
Right.
moon, right. But we didn't always have the Gregorian calendar. Sorry,
No, we didn't.
no,
Man, they really fucked us hard.
that
man.
was made by the Catholic Church in 522 A.D. and it wasn't adopted until later on in Europe.
Yeah,
And it used to have 10 months.
13.
13.
13. There's 13 moon cycles per year.
Oh,
The word month comes from moon. So like you hear like in the old Western movies, the Indian says, oh, he was gone 2 moons, right? What the
yeah.
fuck does that mean? Well, 2 months. Okay, 2 moon cycles. Okay, they were judging, they were gauging things by the lunar cycle. So
Yeah.
you have 13 lunar cycles per year. So if you actually divide that up into 13 28-day months, you come out with 364. Then one day, which they would celebrate as a day out of time. It wasn't Monday, it wasn't Tuesday, it wasn't Saturday, it wasn't the 1st, it wasn't the 5th, it wasn't anything. It was a day at a time. And it was kind of like New Year's. Okay. Then the next day is going to be Sunday, right? So then every 4 years, to compensate for that leap year, you had 2 days. And it was a major celebration. You got 2 days out of time. And it works out. Your calendar never has to change. Every Sunday the 1st will always be Sunday the 1st. Now they also went where the solstice was the new year, April. Look at the naming of our months, for instance, right? You got September, October, November, December, right? Those 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Deca's 10, Nova's 9, Octo is 8, right? Sept is 7.
Yeah.
So why are they the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th months?
2 months out.
We go back before that. Now we've got August and July. Why are they called that? They're named after Roman emperors. But what were they before these Roman emperors? Well, we find out that they were called Quintilis and Sextilis. Oh, so now we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. See, April was actually the first month. April was the new year. This is why when they went to the Gregorian calendar and people still celebrated April 1st as the new year, they were known as fools because they didn't know about the new calendar. They weren't going by the new calendar. See?
Someone told me that, yeah.
Yeah. So
why is tax season always in April?
I don't know why those demons do what the fuck they do, man. I think it's part of the whole I think it's just more of the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly reset that we experience. So, Blue Monday, it's Taco Tuesday. Hey, it's Hump Day, right? We go all through the weekdays because that's where you work. You become weak through the weekdays until you come to the weekend, right? And then you got Saturday. Hey, it's Saturday. I got to get to take care of some stuff that I've been wanting to do around the house, this, that, and the other. Oh, it's Sunday. I'm going to kick back and watch the game. Oh, here we are back at Blue Monday. Now, in between that, with that going on, we do this weekly. We do this weekly and daily, because the daily thing is, oh, 6:30, time to get up, gotta brush the teeth. Oh, 6:15, gotta eat my breakfast. 6:30, gotta get out the door. We have this little fucking routine daily, then weekly, then monthly. Oh, look, it's New Year's. Oh, look, it's St. Patrick's Day. Oh, look, it's Easter. Oh, look, here it comes to get Halloween. Here we got fucking crazy. So then we've got those monthly markers, those monthly reset markers, right? And then we come about,
Yeah.
it's New Year's again. Yay, Happy New Year, another year, right? And it's just fucking cycle, reset.
So you're just in a never-ending loop.
Yeah, man. Yeah, pretty much. That's why, if you notice, my shows never start on the hour. And that's my rebellion against the fucking dial, because I'm not going to be enslaved by it. Here's how you can ask somebody, say, hey, man, are you hungry? And the first thing most of them will do is look to see what the fuck time it is. And it's like, I didn't ask you what time it is. Hungry is a feeling. It's not a time, but we've turned hungry into a feeling, right? Because we have breakfast time, we have lunch time, and we have dinner time. You think animals out in the forest and shit have breakfast time and lunch time? No, they don't. The fucking things eat when they're hungry, and they stop eating when they're no longer hungry. There it is. Boom.
Well, I know, like in Ramadan, it's just basically you can't eat from sunrise to sunset. It's all based upon like moon. So, like the days go longer as Ramadan goes longer, so you have to fast longer. And so, at least it's you're measuring if all the calendars were to fucking go haywire and shit were to go, you'd still have the moon and the sun to measure the time basically on when to fast, right? I guess that's the Islamic way of measuring time. And all the prayer times too, they're all like based upon the moon as well. Yeah.
Well, now see, this is the thing too, is that what we've got, like, okay, so a major difference between the Christians and the Jews, right? Or the Hebrew, right? The Hebrews were of a lunar calendar, where the Christians use the risen sun, right? They use a solar calendar. And the Christian holidays are all based around solar events, right?
Like Christmas is the first day when the sun rises 1 degree.
Right. The birth of the risen sun. Okay. So at the equinox, or when Passover, at that time of the year, is when we celebrate what's called Easter. And it's based off the vernal equinox. And I mean, every one of these things is based off of that. Okay. You even with the zodiac symbols, right? Because we've got the Christ, who is the sun, and what's around him are the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac symbols, right? Even Judas being Scorpio, okay, because he gave Jesus the kiss of death. He kissed Jesus to betray him to the Romans. When a scorpion in the Middle East stings you, it leaves a mark that looks like a little kiss mark. It's called the kiss of death. I mean, each one of these disciples represents one of the zodiac figures, you see. And there it is. And one zodiac symbol being left out so that it reduces us to the 12 months instead of the 13. The zodiac symbol.
13 months that are 28 days each.
Yeah. See, the sun laps the moon every 28 days. And because it's going slightly faster than the moon. The constellations are going just slightly faster than the sun. So every 28 days, you have a moon cycle, and we shift into another zodiac position. It's a perfect clock. This thing is a perfect clock. tells you the hour, tells you the day, tells you the year. It tells you everything, man. Self-perpetuating, has its own energy source.
Okay, so so like I know, like when you look at the sun, right? Like when the days are getting longer, it goes higher, especially if you live in like a northern part of the world, like in Canada, you could really see it. Like it goes higher by each degree, like you can see it. It goes
And
higher, right?
there again, because of perspective, you're going to see more dramatically from that vantage point further north. You're going to
Yeah.
see more drama, a more dramatic effect than you will in a further south. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because like in Alaska, like they get sun all year round in the summertime.
Yeah, they
And
get
then
it.
the winter.
Yeah, because it's up closer. It's up closer. If you look on a Gleason's and down on the bottom of the map, there's some really interesting information on the winter and summer solstice and the day and the light time and what it shows, what the light's doing. And it's all right. You can actually check it with dayandnight.com and it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. You can even that app that I use, you can go on there and you can check that shit on there too with day and night, and it's absolutely right on fucking point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also got a wind thing too. So I'm looking into that too, because you've got some fucking hellacious winds that go in both directions around the world at these.
Oh, you muted there.
You've got like, what is it?
Oh, you muted there for like a couple seconds.
Oh yeah, you would be amazed at the speeds of some of these winds. They're like 1,000 miles an hour or better. That ain't no shit.
Okay, what about Northern Lights? Is that winds that are really fast? That's what
No, that's clearly an electrical function. That's clearly electrical.
okay,
And
I
I
can see
think it
that.
has something to do with the cathode and the anode of this.
Oh shit, is it me? Dang.
Internet for a second. Had shoddy internet for a second. Are we back? Looks like we're back.
Hello, I could hear you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
All
me.
right. It wasn't you. I got a thing up here right now telling me my Wi-Fi is getting screwy. That's all right. We can get it.
We're vibing too high, as someone told me once.
What's that?
We're vibing too high.
It might be. It might absolutely be. So that's yeah. Oh yeah, man. The old lady made some chocolate peanut butter ball fucking edibles, man. Those things are the bomb. See now,
Matt, you're on fire today.
oh my god, man. I'm like fucking totally stoned too, boy. But yeah, no, it's there's some serious shit that people haven't really looked into because of thinking that we live on a ball. And this is where I get to with this thing. See, where if there are other lands, which I believe there are, and a lot of people do, there's a lot to that. I just recently saw some footage of people in Antarctica, and it was they weren't wearing fucking hats. Dudes weren't wearing no gloves. They were touching metal ladders. It was warm enough that you couldn't see their breath. Okay, so I'm like, okay. So this idea that it's just fucking terrible ass cold all year long, I'm sure it does get cold in the winter. But it looks like it warms up, and there's other reports of areas that get as high as 70 fucking degrees, bro. And I'm like,
That's weird.
yeah. So anyway, like Admiral Byrd had said that there's land beyond Antarctica that's bigger than all of America. There's also maps that show possible passages through what we call Antarctica, that actually with flora and fauna depicted on these lands, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, is this freeze? Is this maybe a result of something that took place around maybe in the late 1500s, early 1600s? Because some weird shit we see, you know, like there's no Great Lakes. California is an island. There's no Great Lakes in the where they should be, where Michigan is now. I think there was some kind of a weird celestial event. I forget if it was they said like it looked like the stars were falling or some kind of shit.
Have you ever researched Archaics? I know he has like some flack, but he actually gets into this stuff about like,
you know, listen, if they've lied about as much as they have, you know, you really have to start looking into it for yourself. You really do. And it's kind of ridiculous anyways, I think, to rely on other people for your information anyhow. I think you got to look into it. You got to go and get to whatever resources you can to try to find some shit out, because you find that there's a lot of pieces that they just discarded in order to make their puzzle fit together the way you see it. And you go, well, wait, what's all these extra parts? You know what I'm saying? It's like you're missing.
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, if people weren't able to use anything but copper tools at this period of time, then how do you explain these smooth, polished surfaces on stone? Right? Oh, sanded on it for days on it. Oh, shut the fuck up. No, they didn't. You know, come on. Part of this is also that they've got everybody believing that each consecutive generation is much smarter and better than the one before it. And it's exactly the opposite of that. It really is. So they want you to believe that people were just stupid and walked around with robes on and didn't, you know, completely highly superstitious and all this other shit. No, they weren't, man. These people were fucking brilliant.
Hey, I had a mainstream archaeologist say that they built the pyramid with slaves and ropes and pulleys.
Well, that's because he was told that in one of his approved books in order to get his little paper that says he gets to do that shit. See, that's how it works. There's not even enough room. There wouldn't have been enough room for the people required to do that operation to stand. I mean, there was something else involved there. In fact, maybe they were built rather recently. Who knows? We're told one thing, but, you know, do we really know? No, we don't. I mean, look at the shit surrounding the world's, like the Chicago World's Fair. That's ridiculous. You mean to tell me you built all that shit, 800 acres worth of fucking shit in 2 years so you could run it for 8 months and then tear it down? Nobody does that. Nobody does it. And then you take a look at the 1963 World's Fair and it looks like a cheesy fucking popcorn carnival, dude.
Yeah.
So, no, we're fed a load. There's some really mysterious shit that has taken place between, I would have to say, within the last 400 years has been some really crazy shit that we're not told about. And I think that some really crazy shit was taking place within the last 200 years. When you start seeing this shit with the World's Fairs, an obvious repopulation effort, incubator babies, the Cabbage Patch Fairy, all this shit, you start tying it together and you're like, wait the fuck a minute here. What are you doing? Orphan trains, asylums, all this shit, all brand new stuff to our society, man. And it's like, wait. Why are there all these orphans? Where'd they come from? Why are you growing children in incubators if you've got a bunch of orphans? Or were these kids you already grew and let them get to a certain age?
Back in the 1800s?
Yes. Dude, you
They're
could
talking
go
about
to,
this shit now.
yeah, I know, like it's brand new, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's so weird.
That's what I'm saying. Were these world fairs, were they actually something that was to introduce certain technologies to the new population? I mean, this is something funny too. You look at some of these old pictures, right? Like you'll see from 1890 or 1880, and these people are on Coney Island Beach, and nobody's dressed for the water, right? But they're all just standing there. And here's all these people looking at the camera, and they're all got this bewildered look on their face. Like, why are we here? All the men are wearing the same fucking hats. It's like, like they just got there or something. Like they're confused. I don't know. That's the impression I get. But the thing is you look at like, oh, you have these World's Fairs. And did you know that the foods we consider normal to eat, like for breakfast and lunch and all that shit, do you know those were introduced to us? Things we eat were introduced to us at the fucking World's Fairs. That ain't no
I
shit.
didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's almost like so just imagine a scenario. You find a place that was once inhabited, right? And then you take a whole bunch of people, wipe their memory, give them kind of a blurry memory, and just stick them in this place. And say, oh yeah, you're Bill the Haberdasher, don't you? What's wrong with you? Oh yeah, I'm Bill the Haberdasher. And I work here at this place selling ties and hats and shit. You know, I don't, you know, I mean, hey, we don't have enough people, you know, we need to get some of these kids we grew. Well, put them out there and we can, and see, this would be the thing too. If you used children, right, you can tell them whatever fucking history you want to. How are they going to know any different? Right?
Yeah.
And all it would take would be a small minority of adults that go along with the new normal or the new narrative. Anybody that goes against it, well, we got a special place for them. Now I bring into the idea of all these asylums that popped up around the same period of time all over the world. And they all look the same.
Like the idea of, I know like the idea of like autism and ADHD has been risen. Like the diagnosis for that has been
Well, here's the thing. They're artificially inducing it in people now, but for the most part with kids, right? What they're doing with these kids is they're diagnosing them, I think, with that for being kids.
yeah.
You mean to tell me little Billy here, an 8-year-old boy, doesn't want to sit on his ass at a desk for fucking 8 hours and listen to you yammer on about shit? You mean to tell me that he might be a little fidgety, that he might want to fucking cut up and play like
Yeah.
8-year-old boys are supposed to do?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. And they do, oh, we'll just give him this drug and he'll be a compliant little learning slave. And it really, I think, in that respect, fucking up kids. I was so glad my neighbor, I was talking to him and his wife, and they got 2 little ones. And she had gone up and she was going to enroll the oldest into preschool. And she said, you know, I got in the car, I was about halfway there, and I got to thinking about it. And I said, nope. And her and her husband talked, and they decided they're going to do homeschooling. And I said, man, I'm really glad you're doing that. I really am. Because I really do feel that those institutions, for the minuscule amount of knowledge that they impart onto people, I think they're damaging to people. They really are. They breed a fabricated homunculus of what man is supposed to be.
Yeah, like if you actually do like the curriculum that you know like the basics that to have to be a functioning person of society or whatever, right? Like I've heard of people like they go through a curriculum that takes like a year or sorry 10 months that a normal school year it takes like half of that or not even half of that
Yeah,
because of all
man.
the breaks and the recess and sports and but I mean if you actually sat down and you actually did it like and you just did it on your own time basically like it wouldn't take you as long as they take you with in the curriculum like yammering on about
Listen,
sitting at a desk.
you can homeschool your kids. This is no shit. You could homeschool your kids 2 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week, and they'd still be further ahead than kids that same age that are in school. I guarantee it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done in the past is life is a learning experience, you know? When we're at the pool and we're fucking around in the water and we've got our little floatiers and our rafts and whatnot out there, right? Hey, what a great physics lesson while we're having fun, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can put this blow up raft, all the way down on the bottom. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see how many of us it takes to do it. And then, wow, I wonder why that's so hard to do. And you could actually incorporate that, not have to be boring and dry, but explain and show and demonstrate while you're having fun.
Yeah.
That's the way you do it. You got to engage the kids. You can't today. Education is nothing more than memorization and regurgitation of shit out of some curriculum, and the teacher really doesn't have to know anything to be a teacher. All they have to do is be a very lenient, I would have to say, and tolerant caretaker that reads information and checks to see if they regurgitate it back the way because they do. They teach to the test. This is what these whole SOLs we have here in Virginia. They're called SOLs, and it's part of that no student left behind bullshit.
Right.
Well, now all they do is they go, okay, here's what's going to be on the test, and you guys have to know the answers to these questions here. So it just becomes a memorization thing, and that's a shame. That's a shame. And I think
That's a Prussian model, isn't it? It's a Prussian model of school.
It is. It is. It was
discipline.
What was the guy? What they call the father of modern American education system, Horace Mann. In fact, I believe teachers still get what's called the Horace Mann.
Horace Mann.
Yeah, MAN.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, isn't it? It sounds like a dork, don't it? Somebody named Horace Mann is probably a dork, and if they would have had flushable toilets, he would have got swirlies. I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
swirlies were a bitch back in the days of the outhouse. I got to tell you, I mean, kids today really got it good, the nerds.
Oh man.
Oh hell.
Far back did you go?
Yeah.
Did you fight in the Civil War?
nerds in the 1800s had a fucking problem, man. They really did. Getting swirlies in the outhouse, man, that was a mess.
I heard like for outhouses, what they did back in the day is like once they filled it up, they just burned it to the ground and then just let it regenerate and then just move somewhere else.
Well, yeah, a lot of times they put lime on it, put lye on it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that would kill it down, to a point. But yeah, that's there was when I first came down here, there was a few places here in my county that the people still had an outhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nasty, but it ain't much different than a septic tank. All you're doing is you move the pit to a different part of your yard and you're transporting it there with water. You're doing the exact same thing if you have a septic tank, you know. But there's a lot of people don't have septic tanks anymore. Not at least around here. Everybody's hooked up to town water. There's a few
Oh
places.
no.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, I've been inside of many a septic tank.
You what now? You've been in many of them?
Yeah, man. I'm a plumber, and I actually know a lot of the septic tank pumper guys. And
See, I was a carpenter. We call you guys turd herders.
I pay. Hey, shit flows downhill, and payday's on Friday.
That's right. That's what I know about plumbing. That's
Yeah.
exactly hot's on the left, cold's on the right, shit rolls downhill, payday's on Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like one of the only guys in town that'll go replace people's septic tank tees, and it's actually really lucrative. It only takes me like 20 minutes, and I charge like $400 to just like climb down in there after they've sprayed it out, cleaned it all out, and replace the tee, put a new tee in the tank. And most companies will charge you like 20 grand because of the confined space, all that craziness, and like you can't go down there. And yeah, my grandpa, yeah, and I just climbed down there, glue in a new tee, and bada bing, bada boom,
Yeah.
in and out. Anyways, yeah. But
I don't know, man. It's okay. That's another interesting part of that whole thing I was talking about these old places and shit, right? All right, so the Palace of Versailles. Have you ever seen this place? I'm going to show you this. This place is cool. There we go. Let me get some pictures of it here.
Is the penguin on the top right corner of my icon there? Is that one of the soldiers of Antarctica?
Is it what? Yes,
is it one of the soldiers of Antarctica?
He's actually one of their special hit squad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's a badass. He is definitely.
He's like the Delta Force of Antarctica.
Yeah. So I was thinking about having him put on a coffee cup and it just says, "You ain't going, bro." He's going to keep you out of Antarctica.
Yeah.
Show you this here real quick. This is pretty cool. Okay, so this is Versailles. Okay, this is the Palace of Versailles. All right, give me just 1 second. Let me tend to my dog. I'll be right back. Right back. Nope.
hey, John, so you were saying you're not a total like a flat earther, you're just questioning it?
Yeah, I'd be a globe skeptic.
Globe skeptic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still open to the idea it might be a globe, but I'm skeptical about the model that they give out to me.
Once you go down all the rabbit holes, it gets to be like every single one you like raise an eyebrow, like every single one. Every single like the gravity thing, the like every single aspect of it, like the NASA thing, the history of NASA, what NASA actually does.
The history of NASA. Interesting.
The history of NASA is fucking crazy.
It is. And the timing of it is impeccable as well.
Yeah. It's like when you go down the flat Earth rabbit hole, we were just talking, Dave. Like everything is every single rabbit hole, every single aspect. Like there's a thousand things that you'd think that there'd be one cornerstone where they'd have like some impeccable science, some impeccable thing that you couldn't question. But when you go down it, it's like every single time you're just like, Well, that's questionable. Well, that's
Yeah.
questionable. Well, that's questionable. Gravity, history of NASA, the actual filming of NASA, the actual how they operate, the like freaking s- like every single aspect you look at, the actual measurements of the curvature, like every single aspect. Like there's not one that you go down that you're like, oh well, that checks out. There's not one. Every single
Mhm.
one, every single one, you're like, that's fucked up.
Well, the other night I was watching Flatzoid's Perspective, and he had a guy, and this was last week. This guy was a professor of something. And Flatzoid said, well, give me a demonstration. They had a picture, a high altitude picture from a high altitude balloon. Curved lens, of course. And he says, Flatzoid says, well, can you demonstrate a gas pressure system in a vacuum without containment? And that
Yeah,
guy said, yeah,
just
right
about it.
there. He says, what do you mean right there? He said,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
He
Earth.
says,
Oh yeah,
no, that picture is not
yeah,
a fucking, that's not a demonstration, man. That's
yeah.
not. Real quick, I just wanted to point out how you got a question. Okay, so this is a very beautiful place. It's called the Palace of Versailles. This is just one photograph of part of it, but you can see it's really ornate. They've got these lovely gardens all over the place, gravity fed fountains, right? Beautiful place. They feed river water from the Seine River, comes in. They use what's called a gravity pump, and uh, they've got these wonderful fountains out there. Anyway, over 500 rooms in this palace. Not one fucking toilet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why? You're the
Exactly,
king. This is
man.
where you live. You're the grand poobah. You're up there on the top floor, in the middle of the top floor. You got a shit pain. What do? You're going to go down all them floors? You're going down all them floors outside to an outhouse or something? Now, even the Romans had knowledge of sewage and plumbing.
That's what we're told is that what made civilization is plumbing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
So this, amongst other grand structures just like it, are missing no no bathrooms. Even old medieval castles had a privy on the side of the tower where you could sit in this thing. Then you took a dump and it went in the moat. Okay, right down outside the tower. They even had that. They had none of this here. Okay.
yeah.
So there's other grand structures like this. They're lacking that very same facility.
Same
Simple
with the
facility.
same with the fireplaces too.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So we're looking at like what's going on. So what was it? I think it was in 1846. We had what was called the Great Stink of Europe. Suddenly, the Thames River and all around Europe just smelled like sewage. They didn't know what to do with the poo. Why? Why all of a sudden do you not know what to do with the sewage? Why all of a sudden is this a problem?
Because we fucking didn't fucking shit. Like, man, that's so funny, Dave, man. These are two things I had written down. Was I wanted to talk about the Big Bang. So I when I called in earlier, and then my kids started bugging me, and my neighbors' kids were over, and all this shit. But I had two things written down. Was the Big Bang Theory, which I wanted to talk about, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the one that we're on right now, which I think is the next foot to drop, is about food, and we don't need to fucking eat is near as much as we need to. And like if we were back in the day when like we were like true humans and knew knowledge, we probably didn't need to fucking eat. Like you hear about the breatharians and all this shit, we probably didn't need to fucking eat food. And I just went in and had like a bite of some eggs and stuff, and it feels good in our stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
But truthfully, man, fasting is the most healthiest fucking thing you can do. It's what heals you is fasting. It's what allows your body, like eating is almost what's poisoning our whole race. And we've been fed that for fucking so many years. The 3 meals a day, the fucking food table, like all this fucking bullshit. Man, I fasted for 3 days. That's the longest I've gone. But I never felt healthier after I fasted for 3 days. And I don't know. It's fucking crazy. I don't think we really like if we were like the true like I don't know. Hollywood portrays it, man. When I saw there's that new Wonder Woman and movie, and like their society that they're like so perfect beings, and but if their society was all women, but like I imagine that was like reality, but like men and women, and we probably like ate like just once in a while, like we probably just ate at festivities just for celebrations and stuff like 10 times a year or something like that. Like I don't know, it's fucking
Well,
crazy.
what if the lack of bathrooms was the fact that we didn't have to eat at all, or at least we didn't have to expel waste from what we ate? All right, now bear with me. It says that after the end times, there's going to be 1,000-year reign of Christ over the earth, and it's going to be all peace, everything. And the people who are faithful are supposed to come back in a perfect body, right? So after that 1,000 years, these people will go back. Okay, they're out. And then the devil is loosed for a short season on earth, and the rest of the dead are given a chance, an opportunity to repent, to be able to go to heaven, right? So what if that millennial reign of Christ has already come and gone, and we're actually in that final season, and we are the rest of the dead? Perhaps after they all went back, or wherever they went, and they repopulated all the different buildings that they found dead, founded this year, founded in that year, found dead, and wrote in a whole new history. Now we know that they added 1,000 years to our timeline, because if we take a look, they say the Roman Empire took 100 years to collapse. I think it was much faster than that. And when you look at a lot of these ancient ruins, they're not like places that were left in disrepair. They look like they were blowed the fuck up. You know, what's that one? Pumapunku, right? That fucking place looks like it was devastated by some kind of a weapon. You know, you see these other Roman ruins, right? That the columns are busted up and they're over here and there, right? You see Luxor that they found, Angkor Wat, which was lost, and they found it. Half this shit, there's no way that we could even build it today, right? These magnificent structures. So
everything is so synthetic and cheap now. Like
this out. So right after the fall of the Roman Empire, okay, we had this thing that was known as the worst year in history. I'm wanting to say it was in 546 AD, is what they're saying. And it was the worst year in history. The sun was blotted out because of volcanoes, they say, but it was like perpetual darkness for like 3 years. Nothing grew. There were no crops. There was pestilence, disease, famine all around the world, right? And then we went into what's known as the Dark Ages. And for 1,000 years, nothing fucking happened. And then all of a sudden, we have this Renaissance. And that's when they say all these beautiful buildings and shit were built and everything else. And it's like, no, I'm calling bullshit on all that, man. I'm calling bullshit on all that.
well, I mean, the thing is, like, they probably had a different timekeeping system back then too. So,
well, when we were talking earlier, Gregory,
yeah.
when Pope Gregory did that with the calendar, he actually added 1,000 years to our fucking time. We're actually really only in the year 1023 or so.
Well, yeah, and there's all those structures that have the eye that they count as the extra 1,000 years, but it's like an eye in front of everything.
An I or a J a lot of times, and it's
Yeah.
like supposed to be Iasha or Iasis, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too is like with the Mayan calendar, or we were talking about with the natives, they counted like the turning of the moons instead of years, and so the Mayan calendar was based off of the turning of the moons, and so everyone thought, based off of the Mayan calendar, that the end of the world was in 2012. It actually wasn't, because they had a different year cycle, a different amount of days. It's actually 2040. That's the end of the year, or end of a cycle, or whatever they could call it, basically.
Yeah.
End of the world, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the end of a cycle. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. So you have a period of a great year, right? In the period of a great year, I think it's like 72,000 years completed, right? But what it is when there's a complete rotation of the entire zodiac.
Right.
Okay. As far as the equinox is concerned, hang on, let me grab my coffee real quick and I'll explain how it goes. So I think it's every 2,160 years is an age, right? So just to give you an idea.
Wait, did you say 2,160?
Yeah, I believe that's the amount. Let me double look.
Okay. All right. So this is an exercise, and I don't know what the meaning of it is, but so you have the number 2,178. So without, factoring in the negative integers, what you do is you reverse that. So you go 2,178 minus 8,012. And what it does, it's the only number that goes back to 2,178. If you do that with all the other numbers, you can pick any number you like. It'll always go back to 0. But if you do it with 2,178, it goes back to 2,178 after a couple of subtractions, after a couple of calculations.
Watch, this is going to be in exactly the last fucking place I looked.
Huh?
I have it wrote down. Let's see here.
It's like the number 9.
Yeah. Okay, so the Roman Empire was 375 AD. I'm trying to find where the time I had it wrote down because it's all worked out. Okay, it's in this last notebook. Oh, let's see. Cathode, magnetrons. Some of these are just crap in here. I think it's every 2,160 years. Okay, so a great year is 25,000. My bad. Okay.
Oh, okay.
25,772 years. Okay. So and this is where the sun is at, what sign it's in during its equinox, right? So every 2,147.666666 is one age. All right. So at the time of where the equinox fell into is why we have what we call the tropics. We have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn in the south, right? Okay. Those were named over 5,000 years ago because right now, technically, those tropics should be named Gemini and Sagittarius. All right. So we're coming out of the 2,147 and a half years. We're coming out of that right now and going into the sign of Aquarius. We're in the sign of Pisces right now. So that was within Jesus's time was Pisces. He came when at the cusp of that change from Aries, the ram, to Pisces. Okay. And this is why Jesus is always represented by a fish. Before that, it was the ram. Okay. And if you even look when Abraham took his kid up there and was supposed to sacrifice him, and God stopped him at the last minute and provided a sacrifice, there was a ram that had its horn stuck in the bushes, and he was able to capture it and use it as a sacrifice instead of his son. Okay. That's representative of that age, Aries. Okay. Then we went into Pisces at the time of Jesus. Another 2,100 years later, shoop, we're into Jesus time, right? Now we're coming out of that, now going into the age of Aquarius. So every time each one of those goes through, and it goes through the procession of all 12 zodiac signs, that's a great year. And that takes 25,772 years. That's what's known as a great year. And that's what the Aztec thing you were talking about, the Aztec, that's how that's based on that same thing right there.
Yeah.
So we've been using this calendar clock forever. In fact, from 8 to 9 and from 9 to 10 p.m., we call those hours, right? Where does that word come from? It comes from Horus. You see it? Horus, hours. There we are.
Have you guys heard of the theory of from Edward Casey that the sun is going to turn 30 degrees within, I don't know, I think it was in the middle of this century
I don't
or
know.
next century?
See, there again, that's predictions that are, I'm like, there again, this magnificent, gigantic sun, 93 million miles away, is crap. It really is. It is. I mean, people really don't stop and think what a distance like that really is. See, they don't really, this is one of the reasons you're always hit with inconceivable numbers. Okay. And what I mean, like right now, we're told about our national debt. It's in the trillions, right? $33 trillion or whatever it is up to now, right? Well, how long is a trillion? Right? A lot of people that are just tossing that word around so often, that trillion, this many trillion. You got them saying it all the time in the Congress about their budget, this many trillion, right?
33,000 years in
Yeah.
seconds.
Yes, there you go. They're just shy of 32,000 years is how long 1 trillion seconds is.
Yeah.
So if you made $1 a second, it would take you almost 32,000 years to make $1 trillion. It gives you an idea of that number. So 93 million miles, given the speed of light, if we use it as a constant at the speed that they give us, would take the light 8.5 minutes. 8.5 minutes. Could you imagine somebody turns on a light and it takes 8.5 minutes for you to see it come on? That's a hell of a long ways off, baby.
Yeah, and
That's
that's just the sun, man.
Yeah.
And that's so perfect when because one of the other questions I had was the Big Bang theory and the Big Bang. So I imagine the Big Bang, like their theory, like a firework. So when you see a firework go off in the sky, poof, and everything goes off in different directions. And then the story they tell us is like, oh well, and that star is so many millions of light years away that it's in history. We're seeing it in the past. But when you actually analyze it in your brain, like when it actually happened and you do the timeline, okay, well, we were there at the Big Bang. So we saw that happen. So there would have had been two differentials. We're moving apart. There's two different things. Big Bang explodes, poof. But we saw it at that same moment, and however billion years later. So we would have had to have been moving faster than the speed of light for the stars to be um, a million years behind us. Like when you really analyze it and think about it and look at it in like a dialogue of time and space, It doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. And then they just tell you, oh, yeah, it's because you're not a scientist and you can't understand it. But when
Well,
you actually sit there and analyze it, you're like, no, it just doesn't make sense. It's fucking retarded.
they
It's
don't. They
fucking
get so
You're not an
immersed.
expert, okay? Just shut up.
yeah,
They,
you're not an expert.
they get
So
so
don't
immersed.
think about it.
They get so immersed in their little formulas and their little mathematics that they leave out just even common sense of what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
So they tell us these stars are suns, right? There are other balls of burning gas. Now, first off, like you were saying with this Big Bang, right?
Yeah. It's
The
like a firework.
nature of
Picture a firework exploding.
well, yeah, the nature of an explosion is actually the X part, right? Which means away from, to go, right? Like you exit a building, to explode. Okay,
Yeah. So
so
some stars would be following us at the
what's
same
the
kind
opposite?
kind of trajectory, but some would be going the opposite trajectory. Some would be fucking
Well,
and so
all right,
the sky would be
but wait.
changing every fucking year. Every fucking minute the sky would be changing.
Well,
But it's not. It's the same for fucking the last 3,000 fucking years.
so what's the opposite of an explosion? It's an
Implosion.
implosion, right? That's where something goes like that. You know those little snappy pop things? You throw them and they bang, and they got those little rocks inside them, and you throw them and they go pop, right? That's silver nitrate. Silver nitrate causes an implosion. Those things don't explode when you throw them, they implode. Okay, it's like a piezo effect. Anyway, so the nature of an explosion is that the pieces of that explosion, or whatever it is that explodes, all radiate away from the epicenter of that explosion, right? And in a vacuum or a void, they would have to radiate equally, right? Okay. So as these particles from an explosion radiate, think about fireworks. We've all been to the fireworks show. And you notice that those little pieces that come off of the epicenter of that keep getting further and further away from the epicenter and further from each other as they explode away from the epicenter of the explosion, right? All right.
So
So
everything would be
how would
fucking
how would any of them ever come together? Now, we also have to get around the idea that we're in a vacuum, we're in a void. And because nature abhors a void, anything within that void would seek to disperse and equalize within that void, right? So it would be impossible to get little balls of gas forming and little balls of dust forming, as it would all seek to equalize with the void. So that whole thing's just stupid on its face.
yeah.
The whole idea.
How would we be seeing millions of years into the past? Because we all started from the same point. So we would have been having to travel faster than the speed of light for them to be in the past in the first place. And then it would just be darkness. But so maybe like what we're slowing down
Well,
and
their claim is
now
that
we're
light.
catching back up. The light is catching back up to us, or
Well,
yeah,
their
it's
claim, with absolutely no proof to back it up, is that light travels forever in a vacuum. Okay.
it's all nonsense. It's
Well,
all
of course
fucking
it is.
retarded.
If that were true, then the inverse square law of light would be obsolete and useless when looking at the stars. You know why? Because they would all be just as bright as one another. All right? They would. You would not be able to, they would, because the light's been traveling all that distance. It never fucking fades. It never fades out. Right?
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
And it does suck so much, man, because I fucking love Star Wars.
I mean,
I fucking love like that shit. When I was like not awake, like that shit was so cool. And then I still love it. I still love watching like The Mandalorian and shit. and
Well,
being in that
it's that simple. Is that stars further away should not be dimmer due to their distance.
yeah,
If light travels, and there's no proof of this whatsoever at all. I mean, because then they'll invoke immediately. They'll start invoking the inverse square law of light, and you're like, well, you can't use that because light doesn't fade out; it just keeps going. Whereas anybody, if you really think about it, you're only going to get the distance out of the light is proportionate to the power that's put into the light, right? This is why when you click on your high beams, it's a much more powerful bulb and it looks further. You can see further into the distance than you can with the low beam light. Yes, they're angled differently, but that doesn't matter. You still get a bigger distance with the brighter bulb.
yeah. Their distances almost fucking put them into a choking point, because that's what fucks them in the ass, because the distances are what makes it impossible, because every single light is like a balloon, like you're blowing up a balloon. The further it goes, it has, yeah, the inverse square law of light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so it's like totally, and that's just one aspect, and that's what, yeah, one of my main talking points was like every single thing you look into is fucked with their system. It's totally,
Well, it
like,
comes from treating assumptions as facts,
yeah,
you see. And you can't do that. You can't, once you start treating assumptions as facts, then anything that's derived from that is no good, no better than an assumption. So as soon as you use any assumptive value in your calculations, well, what good is it?
yeah,
Because all you have to do is just make up another one for that and you get a different result. It's just as good as saying, I don't know. You can guess, but there again, you don't know. Guessing is not knowing.
yeah. Hey, and the world is so much cooler the way we look at it too, because it is, once I woke up and I started like even questioning everything. Like you look at those guys that think like about giants and about, you start looking at geography and like the mountains, like they could have been, who the fuck knows? Then it opens up your world to, then you start thinking like, holy fuck, like
Yeah.
maybe that mountain was a giant, or that fucking mountain was a fucking tree, or
Right,
like
right.
who knows? Like it fucking blows your mind into 1,000 fragments, and you're like, holy fuck, the possibilities are endless,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
takes us
yeah.
back
Have you
into like,
guys heard of mountains being like smolted buildings, like old
Yeah, I've heard
buildings?
some of that too. Listen, there's
yeah,
some areas I saw, like out in California, there's an area called the Alabama Hills. And some of the shit out there is just phenomenal. Let me show you some of this.
yeah, it's so cool, man. I went and saw the Devil's, the, what is it, in Alberta, and
The
uh,
Badlands?
no, there's the Devil's Horn, or Devil's. It's a big mountain that looks like a tree stump, and it probably is a tree stump.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah,
mountains.
and it's so fucking cool, man. Yeah, and
Show you
like
something
this,
here in just one hot sec. All right.
and then it's cool how it connects, like like with Hollywood, and like, all the movies and
Check that out.
programming.
You see how these rocks are? These
Yeah.
are all over the place out there, right? And there's some way more dramatic than this even. But this snow cap thing is way off in the distance. This is Mount Whitney. It's the highest point of elevation in the contiguous United States. I used to live right by this place. But this place, man, there's so many movies, science fiction movies, all kinds of shit. Westerns have been filmed in here. But we would go in here, look at this. And you can actually we take mushrooms and go back here around dusk, and you start seeing like faces forming in these rocks and shit. But you get the idea in a lot of places where there's like archways and shit like that. it's like, man, this sure does look like it was like part of a city or something at one time. Let me see if I can find another one. Yeah, real crazy. You ever saw the movie Tremors?
Man, that was my favorite movie growing up. Fuck
Dude,
me.
well, you'll recognize this spot right here then. You'll recognize this from the movie.
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey.
Right?
Yeah.
You remember the two construction guys that were fixing the road?
Yeah.
And they got killed by the fucking graboids or whatever. That was right here. This is Tuttle Creek Road, right?
That's awesome.
And yeah, this is where they filmed that movie. And now the town for it was like right up behind my house. And that whole town was just a movie set. And that was right up back behind my house. This
That's
place is
awesome,
really
man. That's hilarious, man. That was like my most iconic movie, man. That was me and my brother's favorite movie. We watched that thing 1,000 times. Tremors 1. Yeah.
you look at
was
that shit.
the best. Yeah.
Oh, I can't do it like that. That's what I hate. They open it in a different thing. Yeah, this is some really crazy. Like this thing, you see these things and it looks like part of a dinosaur buried in the ground. You know? I mean, it's like.
Do you think dinosaurs actually existed?
No, I think there may have been dragons, but as far as like an entire, the world populated by giant lizards walking around and shit 65 million years ago, no. I don't think there was a 65 million years ago. I really don't. I mean, and there's no way that any of it. I mean,
hey, we have carbon dating.
If you saw our shit where we broke down the carbon dating, dude, that I about pissed myself laughing when I was reading that shit. The guy actually says in there, we know that this is wrong, but we have to use it or our calculations don't work.
It's just like flat Earth when you look at the dinosaurs or it's just like with oil. They say the oil is fossil fuels. That was the big thing back in the day. Fossil fuels.
How many quarts of oil are in a brontosaurus?
Exactly. Exactly.
Fuck, man.
Well, the fossils, they went down, and then millions of years of building soil underneath and rock, and then boom, and oil comes out of these dead dinosaurs. Don't you know?
Is that what it is?
But you look into it, and they're all chicken bones. It's just like the flat Earth. Everything you look into dinosaurs, everything is questionable. You're like, holy fuck.
Oil's a natural mineral, man. It's a natural mineral. They've gone and they've pumped oil in these places and shit, and they say, "Oh, this well's dry now." We've pumped all the oil out of it. They come back in like 10 years, and that motherfucker's full again.
Exactly.
Like, oh, what happened? The next batch of dinosaurs must have leaked.
Well, maybe. Dave, maybe there's something going on in the underworld where they're feeding dead dinosaurs into this vault here, and then it takes 10 years for them to be able to pump it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Maybe it's just a natural part of a circulatory type system that this Earth actually has. There's veins of water that run through. There's veins of lava that run through. There's veins of oil that run through. Who's to say, much like how we are, and we have a different, as above, so below, and we have all these different systems within our body. I mean, you got to look at it. This Earth is really a living thing. It's like with all of us being a part of that living thing. And it seems to be a perfectly synchronized calendar clock with perpetual self-sustaining energy. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. Definitely not an act of happenstance. Some fluke that allowed all this to happen. Like, come on, man. Come on.
Carbon.
You really got to be a fool to think this is not a creation. I mean,
well, they talk about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Don't you know that plants actually need carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
They breathe that in, breathe the
Well,
oxygen.
see, this is the thing. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the green people, and
Yeah.
you know,
I learned this in school, so this is not even misinformation. Like, this is basic knowledge.
listen to what the flower people say. No, the fucking thing is this: is that they're conflating. Those of you that like Spinal Tap, you might recognize it. No, they're conflating carbon and carbon dioxide. They are not the same thing. Okay. So they talk about carbon dioxide levels have increased, which, as you said, is good for plants, which in turn is good for us.
Mhm.
See? And then turn around and say, so we have to reduce the carbon. Okay. And don't say we got to reduce the carbon dioxide, say we got to reduce the carbon. Your people's brains are not seeing that that's two different fucking things. And what you got to realize is you are the carbon that they want to eliminate. Okay. That's the reality. And it's not, carbon dioxide is not harming a fucking thing. The more carbon dioxide that's out there, really, I mean, the plants are going to thrive. The plants thrive. They produce oxygen. I mean, most of our plant derived oxygen comes from algae in the oceans anyway. A lot of people don't realize that.
It's all scarcity tactics. It's all everything, man. It's even funny. We've our lifespans have been shortened so much, and
Well,
like, and
Kennebunkport,
they
Maine is
had to, or
supposed
else
to be
we would.
underwater.
What's that?
According to Al Gore, back in the 90s, by right now, Kennebunkport, Maine, where the Bush lived at, is supposed to be underwater.
Exactly, and there's supposed to be holes in the ozone layer, and
Yeah.
acid rain, and fucking, like, think about all the things they've told us for the last 50 years while we were growing up, and all of it was bullshit, and all of it fades away into nothing. And
Yeah.
then they came up with terrorists, and then they came up with and now the new thing is transgender terrorists, and then like, fuck, it's fucking insanity.
Dude,
Oh, I remember acid rain was a thing. Fuck.
who
It
is
was,
sitting
and the
around
hole in the
thinking about
ozone
this?
layer.
Who's sitting around thinking this shit up? We need tranny terrorists. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Well, man, it's a joker. It's a joke, man. Owen Benjamin says it the best, man. He thinks that it's all written as like there's some fucking the grand guy is a comedian, and he's all just writing these fucking jokes, and for us to figure out, because it's so fucking hilarious once you figure it out, and it's like holes in the ozone layer and fucking.
Oh, I know, dude. Look
Yeah.
it. I was just thinking about that, and that's how I was trying to explain that to people. I said, "Can you dig a hole in your swimming pool?" No, that's stupid. Yeah, I know. Think about it. Hole in the ozone, a hole in gas. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you look into it, the supposed what they call ozone is a product of atmospheric gases that are affected by sunlight. Sunlight is what creates ozone, right? Well, yeah, there's a lack of it in the north during the 6 months of winter when there's no sunlight, when it wouldn't be needed in the first goddamn place. So it's like they take something that's natural and try to make it like, oh, look, it's because of man. No, it's not. It's because of fucking nature. That's how it works. I would listen. That's why every time they run something, I start fucking laughing. I do.
Yeah, no, and it's good because we have to laugh because it is a big joke, man. Some of this shit, and we got to stop being scared and turn it in and just start laughing at it and being like, "Fuck! Oh, here's the next one." Like, what the? And I hate to say it, even like, I won't even bring it up. Like every time there's one of the
I know what you're
shoot,
talking about. Yeah, yeah.
things.
Educational tragedies.
Yeah, yeah. But at this point, like, even when you get down to it and you start researching it, and you see the people on the news, and they're all the same people saying the same shit and talking like yeah, about like stuff.
Well, man,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I bet you I can go over here on fucking Bing. Watch, we'll do it right now. I'll do it. I'll go over here. And I'm just going to go. They've got like, okay, news. And then you can go over. They've got science somewhere in the news. I'll bet
Christ.
you that there's an asteroid going to narrowly miss the Earth. There usually is. Let's see. Science and technology. Let's see what nonsense they're throwing at us in here. Let's see. Because I swear to God, man.
It's going to hit our ball Earth. It's going to go out of orbit.
You know how many times I've heard the story about a fucking asteroid, you know, the size of New York City, gonna narrowly miss Earth, and all these people are flipping out and shit. And it's a good distraction, but once you get to the idea, no, surprisingly, there doesn't seem to be one here recently. Not now. I did see one not long ago. You know, once you come to the idea that there's never going to be any goddamn rocks from space hitting the goddamn Earth. Okay. People say, well, what do you call those meteorites that we see? Well, we call them meteorites. Well, what do you think they are? Well, they're not fucking rocks from space. Okay. I don't know.
I've never seen
one.
I've never seen one hit the ground.
No.
I just see it shoot across the sky. I've never seen one hit the fucking ground.
No. You never see one go like this either. Look, you never see one go like that. You never see
exactly
one go up like that, do you? Wonder why that is. If we're in space where there is no up or down, everything is either in or out. See, that's hypnotic fucking shit, is what that is. That's hypnotist psychobabble fucking horse shit to get you lured into a mind warp, man, because that's what they do. And it's evident.
So is there any actual evidence that there's floating satellites in the sky without helium balloons?
Oh, no. No. You know, how come I hear all these people, I've had people come out here and say, well, I've installed satellite dishes. Well, then why do you always point them south? Why are they always at like 40 degrees, 45 degrees? Why you don't point it up? I thought the satellite's up there. Why are you pointing it south?
Yeah.
Come on, man. You know what? You know how much of an unneeded step that would be in order to transmit telephone or television? That would be such an unneeded step and a waste of fucking time and resource.
Hey, Dave, you don't want to come off sounding like Mr. Biden. So you don't want to fucking say, come on, man, too much.
Come on, man. Hey, look, that motherfucker stole that from me to try to look cool. See, he just can't pull it. He just can't pull it off, man. No, that was mine long before old Biden came along. Fuck him. You know, I've known he was a corrupt little piece of shit for years. I mean, years, man. I read this book that was written by, it's called Unlimited Access. And I can't remember who the author to it was. It'll probably come to me. But shit, I probably read this over 20 years ago. And it was called Unlimited Access. And the author to it was a FBI agent that worked at the White House. That was his assignment. And he was part of what was known as the spin team. And their job was to do background checks on all new employees to the White House. That meant staffers, everybody, right? This was during the Clinton administration. He got so disgusted with the way things were going around there and shit that he was only a couple of years from retirement. He fucking quit. And he was right. He wrote this book and he talked about all of them. Biden, all these fucking dirtbags. I wonder who wrote that. What was that guy's name? I'm going to look it up real quick. Yes. What was the guy's name? Come on. Gary Aldrich. Get on Amazon for about $13. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, he was talking about that and he said that it's like, wow. You know, you wouldn't believe the fucking behavior that takes place in that place. He said he walked into one of the offices in the West Wing, and there was two guys getting it on the desk.
Man, the shit we hear about is so fucking crazy. Like the coronation with the new fucking king, and did like his marriage counselor was that fucking guy who was proven to be like a necrophiliac, the guy that was on BBC everywhere, um, the guy with the fucking pink glasses, that was knighted, that's like a total fucking Satanist, and that's the new king, and that was his marriage counselor.
Oh,
Like,
dude, no. Okay, you're talking about Jimmy Seville.
yes, Jimmy Seville
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
new king. That was his marriage counselor, like proven. It was like totally like, and that this is reality. It's
Well,
fucking insane. It's
all
fucking
right. So
insane.
you know about Jimmy Seville then, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. Okay. So this guy, real creepazoid. Um, and he wanted this guy to be Harry's godfather. That ain't no shit, man.
Yeah, it's
Creepy dude.
fucking
He was not only a map, I guess we have to call him now, an MAP, at least on here. But he also liked him from the downstairs floor of the hospital as well. He would often volunteer at a children's hospital.
yeah, yeah,
And he,
necrophiliac, man, and that's what
yeah.
the N word should be is fucking necrophiliac, not fucking nigger. Fuck.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Right. Because I mean, wow, that's but you see there again, it goes right into this satanic death cult type people. You know, the Saxacotha Coburg line that King Charles is part of. Its roots go all the way back to Vlad Tepes. You know, Dracula, Vlad the Impaler,
well, and
also Elizabeth Bathory.
that's what he said. His fucking inheritance was yeah, Vlad the
Yeah,
Impaler.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he owns one of Vlad's castles in Transylvania in the Carpathian Mountains. He's quite proud of it. Rumor is he likes to don a cape and run around in the forest too. So,
yeah.
but these people are like they're crazy. You know, they're inbred and crazy. They're inbred cousin fuckers. They really
Oh
are.
man, when you look into that dark stuff, man, yeah, we shouldn't even go there, but like it's weird, man. I think that's yeah, something that wakes a lot of people up too. That is in reality that
Oh,
you don't even, as a
Genty.
normal person, you don't even think about that shit, and they
Janty,
think,
in the traditional sense, like you're thinking with fangs and whatnot, yeah, I believe you're right. However, these evil fucks that do consume human blood. I mean, Elizabeth Bathory, she's part of that line. These people do this, man. It's really quite, you have to, I was even, I don't know if you've ever wondered about this, but of all the blood that's donated around the world on a daily basis, far outweighs the use of said blood that is donated. And
oh man,
so,
just like the missing kids in the States and North America.
did you
Like,
ever see, did you ever see Blade?
yeah, that was one. Both the
All right.
remake and the old one
So
are both
remember,
awesome.
in order to keep their fucking shit underground, so that people don't try to hunt them down and kill them and shit, they got their blood at the blood bank, and they were down on that one guy because he was actually out hunting humans and doing it. And they were like, they're like, you're gonna bring attention on us. You got to stop that shit, and get
Yeah,
your blood the way the rest of us do at the blood bank. And I got to thinking about that, and I was like, God damn, there's a lot of blood donated. And you don't necessarily need the fucking fangs and shit to be doing this, but we know that the use of blood in rituals as well as the consumption of human blood has been a thing for a long time. I wonder if these people are not also like genetically compatible to be manipulated or possessed by, see, because this is what gets me, right? These elites or elites will put forth a plan that would maybe take generations for it to come to fruition as far as mortal men are concerned. So why would somebody put so much time and effort into something that they wouldn't hopefully ever live to see come to fruition unless they're an entity that possesses person after person after person within a genetic code, within a genetic bloodline? You see what I'm saying? This old man starts to go to death. We do some kind of like a fucking ritual or whatever and transfer the entity over to them. Boom. Same guy, different body each time.
Man, same old question. Why would they lie? And that's what all the fucking when what's his name, Dave at Trinity 4 is questioning all these people about flat Earth, and they always ask, well, why would they lie? Why would they lie? Because they have hidden knowledge, man. Like, who knows what they can fucking do? Yeah, maybe they are living like longer lives. And like, I totally believe that we used to live 200, 300 years, 400 years. Who the fuck knows their
Yeah,
knowledge? Like fuck. And yeah, with reincarnation, maybe they know ways of reincarnating their so they can remember and still be reborn again, like as a baby. Like, who the fuck knows what they
right.
know? It's fucking, and especially with the dark arts, like the dark shit, you know. Oh man, it's insane.
Well, you got to look at this. I've seen people saying the Epstein Island and total psyop. They want you focused on just that island. That's not the only thing that's going on. This has been going on for a long time. A lot of people that have only become aware of this through the Q-tard shit that was going around here.
Hey, I was Q-tarded for a while.
You know,
When
but
I first woke
it
up.
did bring attention to something that has been going on for a long time. I was aware of it. Oh shit, man! Back in 2010, 2011, there was the International Tribunal on Crimes Against Children or something like that. You can look up Kevin Annett. Anyway, they had this international tribunal in
Yeah,
Brussels.
he's from Canada, Kevin, and that. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
guy.
yeah. And he's done a lot of work and found that the royals, actually Philip and Elizabeth, had taken
Native.
native children
Yeah.
and they were never seen again, because Canada used to take the children away from indigenous people and put them in orphanages and shit like that. England, yeah, it was, because of the rule of England.
Those are residential schools.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of that shit is bullshit too. I don't know how they repurposed it, but for sure, I actually live right next door to Kamloops where they found this big thing, but so I don't know which side to believe, but totally
The native burial site that they said that there was unclaimed remains of First Nations kids during residential, but they didn't actually dig it up. They just
yeah
It just made a claim
exactly
by the
right.
elders, and they're just like, well, I guess they're the elders. You can't question them.
Yeah,
That's what the report literally
I'm
said.
skeptical of that kind of shit. But
Yeah.
when they find an orphanage and they go and excavate the old well or cistern and they find the skeletal remains of, like 40 kids, then you start to see a pattern arising there. Okay. There's a lot of people, I know it's very, very hard to believe, but these satanic networks are huge. They involve the highest of the high. Okay, what we would consider the elitist of the elite. Most of the time, people think of these people as some kind of wackadoodles in their shed with a pentagram drawn on the ground, and they go looking around for a kid or something, or a goat or somebody's cat. No, we're talking about highly sophisticated organizations. Look into the Mother of Darkness Castle. You get enough information on that, and George Bush's 1,000 points of light speech starts to make sense. You realize what the 1,000 points of light are.
Well, and then you start realizing, man, once you get woke, man,
It's very real. It's very
you
real. Listen,
well,
this
and then
shit
you
is
start
real.
realizing like the Red Cross and UNICEF and all these big organizations, and then you start studying those big organizations,
Yep.
and what they actually fucking do is like nothing from what the money that they're given. It's like pennies. It's pennies. It's like 1%. UNICEF built like fucking 4 houses for like fucking $40 billion, and
Yeah.
yeah. It's same with like Red Cross and all this stuff. But
March of Dimes. March
all
of
the
Dimes, they're really bad too.
all the sheeple just think that they're like amazing. Oh, Red Cross is like helping the world when they're just other big corporations siphoning fucking money off, and they put out propaganda making it seem like they're great fucking organizations. It's man, it's so insane how the world is.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. People are real comfortable thinking the world that they see and they believe is actually how shit is actually happening, and in reality, it's not. It really isn't. If people really understood what is actually going on behind the scenes, if they actually understood that, hey, whether you think it's bullshit or not, these people really fucking believe this stuff, man. They really do. This is why they plan to do these things that are done on certain days of the year during certain celestial alignments. You know, that's not by accident. Billionaires use astrologers. Okay, that's a reality. That's a
Yeah,
fucking reality.
yeah. Millionaires don't think that's fucking bullshit, but billionaires fucking understand that it's fucking real.
Look who we got. Sean Hawkins is in the audience. Everybody say hi, Sean. The fucking dude, fucking meth head.
Hey, hey, Dave. The real thing that I'm concerned about, though, is that if my cognac is actually made in France,
No, probably not, man. It's
I
probably
I
not.
I paid this top dollar for this cognac, and I thought it was coming from France, but
It don't matter
now
where it comes from, Bearsworth. It's all fucking back. It's all bug poop. Did you know
I
that? It's bug poop.
I'm questioning whether it comes from France or not. Fuck.
Well, would it matter if a turd came from France or from next door? Because
No.
that's what it is, dude. That's poop. You realize that, right?
Cognac?
Yes, it's all
No, I
poop.
didn't. I
Yeah.
haven't heard this before. I've
All right. So
billion.
how is alcohol made, right? Okay. So what happens is these little bacteria called yeast, right? They go in and they eat sugar and they shit what you call alcohol. So you're drinking bacteria poop, is what that is.
Okay.
Ain't no good for you, man. Smoke weed. Get out of that fucking shit. That shit's low level. It'll kill you.
I
I ain't
know.
killing you. It'll kill you. I'm not kidding you, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made
I know
kombucha out of that.
I mean, I know firsthand. I know firsthand what that shit is, man. It's spirits. There's a reason it's called spirits. Listen, you're an Owen fan. I can tell by your name, right?
Yeah.
I watched Owen wake up and get sober. I watched him get sober. And that was so enlightening to me because I've been sober for almost 13 years now, right? And that was I was like watching him and I was like, yeah, buddy, you can do it. You can do it. You're coming to realize you're learning. And it was really cool to watch him because he came on to flat earth and sobered up like in the same time period. And I watched him do that. I thought that was really cool. I went through a real hell of a time with that shit for a great many years in my life. And it's possession is what it is. You don't want that.
I totally know, man. I think so too. Man. I'm still going through it, and it's fucked up. It is fucked up, man. it's tough.
Well,
It's weird.
think about how many times something bad has happened to you, and then think about how many times when something bad happened to you, alcohol was either directly or indirectly related to it.
Yeah, every single time, man. And I've had a lot of bad things happen to me over the last like 3 years. It's been fucked up. Yeah. And every single time alcohol was probably, yeah, the factor. Yeah.
Yeah, they find that a majority of people that are in prison for whatever reason, that a lot of times it's because there was alcohol involved directly or indirectly. Whether they lose your temper in a bar fight and crack somebody's head open, or the wife said way too much and you backhanded her, or what have you. There's always negative shit that follows around that stuff, and it's because the low level entities
For
that
sure, man. The spirits and the
they feed
spirits,
off.
man. The
They
spirits.
feed off of that low level. So you want to bring on the fucking light beam, and you have to tune your radio to the high frequency.
Man, there's something there for sure. I know 100% you're fucking right with that. I know.
Yeah, I ain't preaching at you. I'm saying one guy to another, man. I've been there.
I
And
know.
if you usually, a lot of times, this is the reality of it. If you feel like there's a problem going on there, man, there probably is. And shit'll grab you by the short and curlies, man. And the biggest thing that kills you with it is its ego. Is you sit there and go, no, man, I have control. And you find out, like I did, no, you don't, because you'll go, okay, this is one of the steps people try. I tried it and I've seen others do it. And this will crack you up. Maybe you've tried this. Okay, I'm going to control my drinking. Okay, so I'm only going to drink beer during the week. I won't drink until after a certain time, like 5 o'clock, right? And then that's the only way we're going to do it. Well, that goes well and good for a short period of time. And you say, see, look, I was able to control it. I deserve a drink for that. So you say, see, I proved to myself I was able to control it. So now I can have one whenever I want. Forget the fact that it's 8 o'clock in the morning. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there, man. I've been there.
No, it's fucked up. Life is fucked up, and we'll see where it takes us.
Well, there again, it's fucked up if you have the perception that it's fucked up. Okay. Yeah. If your outlook is that it is fucked up, then it will be. But you got to consider this, even that every day when you open your eyes, there is the miracle right there in front of you. And what do we have in front of us when we open our eyes? And that miracle's in front of us. The realm of possibilities. That's where the carpe diem, right? Seize the day. It's what you make of it. It's your outlook on it, what you focus on.
Yeah.
Really easy peasy. What do we got going? Sean Alke, CBD is the antagonist of the THC. It cancels it out. Well, I know that if you let your buds ripen way too long, the CBD count goes up higher than the THC count. And that's the kind of weed that makes you sit there in your chair thinking for the next 4 hours about the sandwich that you're going to get up and make any minute. That's what my experience with that is. Oh, there's Wake Up in America and Resist. What's happening, buddy? I just happened to look over in the chat. I almost forgot about the chop. Yeah, Sob knows Bud's better. Let's see. I wondered if he was a bear. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Cool. What, Sean, leave us already? Did he leave us already? I wonder if he did a little show on us. He tries to do that from time to time. Still trying to seek relevance. He doesn't get very many viewers. I mean, I don't really either, but he's got a lot more subscribers than I do. Let's see. Anything? No. Oh, he had something. Oh, he's so original with his titles. The title to his video. He went 4 hours and 57 minutes with a thing called flatzoid perspective is a dumb motherfucker. And this is a guy that never refutes anything. He never does. The only thing he does is he'll say, Alexa, what is such and such? And then he'll put up whatever it says. But most of his critique of anything is like pretty much how his comment in our thing was here a little bit ago. It's just, dumb motherfucker. Deny reality. Paranoid. I asked him one day if his mother ever had any children that lived. He didn't answer. So I'm suspecting she didn't. Whoops. That's not what we want. So anyway, I'm going to cut this down. I'm ready to get off of here. Hang out for a little bit before I go to bed. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Been on here almost 4 hours. Triggered is Alexa. Hey, I've done that with my Google. The fucking phone be sitting here and I'll say something about that godforsaken company and my phone will go blink. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. And I'm like, good. Little bastard. Are you speaking, Bearsworth? I can't hear you.
No, I'm not.
I
was gonna say thanks for the conversation, Dave.
Yeah, right on, Bearsworth. Anytime, man. Anytime. But yeah, man, it's like I said, I used to do that too. And in my later days of drinking, I got to the point where, it don't matter if it came from France or not. So I'd get the cheap shit, right? I mean, if I can get a fifth of 100 proof vodka for $8, fuck yeah. Who cares if it's rock gut? You still get the same effect out of it. I wasn't drinking it for taste anyways. I was drinking it to get drunk, right? So, yeah, I mean, even like when I'd go to bars, like what happens is you start going to seedier and seedier bars that are just a step below where you are at, because then you're not the lowest one there, you see. And then as soon as you start to meld in, you'll go to another place where you're not quite as it's a cycle, and it sucks, man. It really does. And it'll keep dragging on you. I hope I think you're realizing it. So
No, I do, man. I've almost hit rock bottom, man. No, to tell you the truth, yeah, I could go down my rabbit hole. I lost my license twice in the last 2 years, and I fucking my marriage is on the rocks, and fucking I got 2 kids, which I love deeply. Yeah, and then I got a blower in my van now. In my vehicle, so I can only drive with a blower. So now I can only take my kids in my work van. Yeah, it's just fucking crazy. But life is interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what. I had a breathalyzer on my car, right? Yeah. And I didn't let that stop me.
Yeah,
I didn't let that stop me. I get my kid to blow in it for me.
I tried that once. It didn't work, and now I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying. And listen, now they're so sophisticated. Some of them, they even have a camera on it.
Yeah, so I thought about making a movie about that, like getting my kids to blow into the breathalyzer. Like that would be such a good movie about rock bottom. Like you're getting your kids to blow into your breathalyzer. Like that's fucking pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, if you're trying to find a way around what's keeping you from drinking and driving, then there's a problem. Yeah, absolutely. And you won't realize it. You're just like trying to be like Wile E. Coyote and find your way around the fucking system. I know.
It's fucked up.
I know. I've been there, man. I know. Oh, man. So, anyways, I'm going to get off here. It's getting late. I thought Ryan was going to join us. Want to thank you for coming, Bearsworth. Everybody that's still over in the chat, good to see everybody. Glad you could come and join us. Hope you had a good time. I had a good time. We'll see everybody the next time. So as we always like to say, Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey. See your doctor and fire that son of a bitch. That's all I can say. Good night.